6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS, the award-winning 710 KNUS.
Yeah.
Mark Crowley getting some awards. We getting some awards.
That's so good for Mark.
Yeah.
And awful traffic on Parker Road.
Yeah, stay off Parker Road near 225 northbound.
Totally shut down. Yeah.
I end up having to drive around.
Me too.
Find new routes.
And the thing is, I drive in a certain way and everyone knows, you drive in a certain way. You've got your path.
Yep.
You've got the thing you're used to. And it was shut down. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, wait, okay. I started having a thing in my head. I'm like, I haven't had to navigate a different way to this studio in like 8 years. This was not a test I was waiting for at 4:30 in the morning. I do not appreciate you, Denver and Aurora Police Departments. I understand you're keeping us safe, but I had to think way too early.
I've found that recently in accidents, this happened to me the other day too. They shut down both sides sometimes.
Yeah, you're like, that's not
really?
helping.
Was it that bad?
Exactly.
Maybe it was.
Well, and that were you curious? I kind of was like, I just kind of want to go.
Yeah. Well, I end up posting. So what I'll do is go post to next door and be like, "I don't know what happened," and then you get all the details.
That's true.
You actually get the details. Thank God for next door.
Yeah,
it has its issues.
Yes, it does.
But no, thank God I was listening to 710 KNUS and Hugh Hewitt on the way in and heard the traffic report. And I was like, "Well, huh."
Yeah, and I was telling Lou, who's running our video today, that I'm driving and I'm headed towards Parker. And again, I'm not totally engaged. I'm doing other stuff. I'm thinking about the show. I'm thinking about stuff that you posted, as far as the stories and some other things. And so I'm just not, I'm doing the regular thing. I'm just automatically driving. And I start thinking, that's a lot of cars coming the other direction. Why are they all turning here? That's really weird. And then I get about 2 more blocks. I'm like, oh, I bet there's an issue. And then I crest over this hill and I see the blinky lights. I'm like, darn it. Yeah, I could have turned 2 or 3 blocks behind me and done that quicker, but no, I had to loop back. So
710 KNUS providing the important traffic updates for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be another beautiful day in Denver, Colorado, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. I just got mine going. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Listen to this, what we got coming up today. We're going to dive into the Arizona Supreme Court decision on abortion, how that's going to affect Republicans, and watching Republicans like Carrie Lake run away from the pro-life position is wild.
That was crazy.
The heck is going on here, Republicans? Ryan Armagost, representative here in Colorado, he's the one that led the Jenna Griswold impeachment yesterday. Yeah. He's going to join us in the 7 o'clock hour, get into the details on that. Richard Holtorf had some fighting words for Dave Williams, chairman of the GOP in Colorado.
Yeah.
Richard Holtorf running for Congress, state rep here in Colorado, running for Congress in CD4. Has called for the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party to resign. He's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour and explain why. Is this a more distractions as we head into the playoffs for the Republican Party? Or does Dave Williams deserve this? You make the call.
I appreciate Richard so much because he does what he calls it cowboy talk.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, this is unfiltered. And this is, I feel this is him doing a little cowboy talk. Mm-hmm. Now, whether we can talk about strategery, whether or not it's smart or what the implications are there, but I think he's coming to the table with his heart. And I appreciate that because I think too many times people are playing to the strategery. And I respect that about him. So, yeah, he's going to bring the fire later this morning. This will be fun. This will be real interesting.
Someone texted in late last night to the station here a request for resignation letter from the, you got to help me pronounce this, Huerfano County.
Huerfano County.
Republican Party, their leadership there, the chair, vice chair, secretary signing and calling for Dave's resignation. I'm gonna ask Dave to come on later this week, and we'll get his sense both on the state assembly, how things went on down there, but also address some of these as well. So we'd like to have Dave's voice. Is this just distraction time before the big game?
Yeah.
And we need to get behind Dave, and we need to help Republicans win, or is he using the party in a way that's not going to help us win? And we need to make a change at this point.
And the thing I've got is that I remember during the transfer of power time between Christy Burton Brown into Dave Williams,
Yep.
there was a lot of, finally, we've got the right guy. We've got the guy that we need. We've got the guy that the hardcore supporters really love, really like. This is the guy that can lead us to victory. And now, a little different. Just a little.
I have been, I used to work for the state party. In 2012, right after the Romney campaign, I brought all the coalition data that we developed and worked on over and worked with Ryan Call for a little bit and then hired my replacement. And there was infighting back then. Matt Arnold and Ryan Call would get into it, and Matt sued Ryan, and we had all that kind of infighting back then too. So I'm a little skeptical that this is anything new or shocking or unprecedented, I guess is the better term.
Point. Yeah. I have a hard time believing that functioning state parties are really a kumbaya. I have a feeling there's a lot of internal strife. And if I had to, it would be one of the last jobs I would ever agree to have, because you can't make everybody happy. You really can't. Even though the Democrats are in some ways waffle stomping the Republicans in some areas, even then, there are the purity tests. Even then, it's we're not liberal enough. We're not legalizing enough of the drugs. We're not letting all of the homeless people poop on the streets. So even then they're not happy.
They have their own infighting, so they're working right now to oust their vice chair.
Yes,
right, because she made claims of sexual abuse against a state rep.
Yeah.
And then there was a group of Democrats opposed to the transgender ideology that is being forced to stop using the term Democrats.
Yeah. Which is just weird. Again, all the infighting.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I did like I appreciate you bringing up them trying to oust their vice chair, because it's the one time they aren't believing the victim.
Right.
Just really, that's the one I think everybody should point out.
It's hashtag believe some women.
Exactly. It's the one time they're like, no. We believe all the women except for the one in our party that's the vice chair. Wait, hold on. Oh, jeez. I know.
We're going to get to Blake Olson with the news here in just a second. Hey, we all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. My boys and I did legs today. Bill, we got the weights out, and we're doing goblet squats and rack squats and all that stuff, man.
It's early in the morning, too.
My boys are up with me.
I try to do that at 4 a.m. I get up and like, no. But I show up here a lot earlier, so that's the other part too.
That's true, you do. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the natural grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Full show coming up. Let's go to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 41 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, 29-year-old Kiara Jones has been fired by Littleton Public Schools after she was caught on video punching and stomping a nonverbal student. She also has been arrested and charged with a felony count of third-degree assault against an at-risk person. The 10-year-old named Dax has autism, and his mother spoke out Tuesday at a press conference.
Had bus footage been routinely audited, the torture and torment of my sweet boy could have been stopped.
Heartbreaking. The parents of 2 other children with autism spoke out as well. All the parents have been asking for an investigation for months, but they say the district would not do anything to help. A Parker man is in custody accused of the brutal killing of his wife on April 4th. 78-year-old Angel Beaker was found beaten with a hammer in the couple's home. She died later of her injuries. 73-year-old James Beaker is being held on a first-degree murder charge. Denver and Decay Mayor Mike Johnston spoke to residents in West Denver last night.
This is a situation where there's both right-of-way infringement, there are health and safety risks, and the size of the encampment is too large for us to resolve to housing.
They're sick and tired of seeing and smelling human waste, witnessing drug use and violence at a camp near 8th and Navajo. The city says it'll take steps to clear it out by next Tuesday, and then it'll move on to a neighborhood near you. Open borders and enabling. You get what you vote for. State and local officials demanding more and better from Xcel Energy after 2,000 customers were still without power Tuesday morning. Getting the power back after shutting it down to prevent wildfires took longer than anticipated. A resolution to impeach Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold failed 8-3 Tuesday. House Republicans brought the impeachment resolution forward after Griswold, of course, led the way to try to leave former President Trump off the state ballot. The Supremes, of course, shut that down. Two mothers who lost their sons to distracted driving car crashes sharing their stories at the Lifesavers Conference on roadway safety in Denver. 700 people have been killed in a 10-year period from distracted driving in our state alone.
We need people to step up to the plate. We need them to put their phones down. We need them to buckle up, and we need them to just drive. That's all we want them to do. When you're behind the wheel, we want you to just drive.
News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 33 in Boulder, 37 in Parker, 41 in Denver.
Watch out, here comes McKinnon, score!
Nathan McKinnon with his 7th career hat trick last night. Avs 5-2 win over the Wild. DU takes on Boston U tomorrow in the Frozen Four. 3 o'clock, they drop the puck. Nuggets beat the Jazz, and the Rockies lose to the Diamondbacks 3-2. It is Wednesday, hump day with Jeff and Billy. They continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 7-10 5-day forecast calls for partly cloudy to cloudy today. Temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. A small disturbance is going to be moving through, so there is a small chance today for a few showers. Temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. A brisk north to northwest wind. Lows tonight, low to mid 30s. Thursday will be sunny to partly sunny 60s. 30s and 40s Thursday night. We are going to be well into the 70s Friday through Sunday. Friday through Sunday fair. I'm meteorologist Don Day on 710
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. As Blake was discussing that Colorado paraprofessional Kiara Jones arrested for assaulting children with disabilities. Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't seen the video. I've been trying to avoid it because I have a special needs kid, and that's a little too much. That's one that really. I mean, you want to see me kill someone with my bare hands? Yeah, that's an instance where I get nothing. Yeah,
horrific. I mean, they're riding the bus. He's just sitting there looking out the window, and she just starts pummeling him.
Yeah, and
for no reason.
And the thing is that it's more times than not, and I've seen this a number of times. They go after the nonverbal kids because they know the nonverbal kids can't rat them out. And
why the hell get a job like that? Why be in that space and do that?
Yeah.
Is it because they are kind of sadistic and they want to torture kids?
I think part of it is, I honestly think that this is the only thing I can get type of a job. The idea that there isn't anything else out there, and this is whatever it is, this is the path of least resistance. This is the place in which I can make the most money and put out the least effort type of an idea. If I can make the same money at McDonald's, but they're going to require me to do a lot more. I can make the same money working retail, but working retail is somewhat of employment hell at times. So I think that's part of it. I also think that the guardrails that they have on some of the special ed services, the district doesn't pay enough attention to, because that's not the only person in the bus. There are two people in the bus. On special ed buses, there's a driver and there's an assistant. There should be. That's standard procedure. There should be two people. So if one person is abusing the kids on the bus, there should be another adult there. And in part, that's why there's two of them, so that you don't have either the bus driver or the assistant alone, just in case, because we've all had really bad days. We've all had times in which things are crumbling around us and our emotions have gotten the best of us. But so many of us don't then take it out on others. And in some cases, people do. And that's why you have that two-person system inside of the special ed buses. And the special ed assistant for my son was fantastic. Absolutely incredible. He had one that was a jerk in middle school. Absolute jerk. And was more, the thing is that the didn't build the proper relationships with the kids. And it is something special that you've got to, if you're dealing with the special ed kids, especially getting them on and off the bus. It takes a lot of time, because that's not the regular bus service. You're going to their house. You're seeing their parents. They don't show up at the bus stop. You're going to their door and bringing them out, and you're bringing them onto the bus. And it is your job to make sure their day gets started and then to get them home at the end. The parent is entrusting you to care for their child as if they would getting them to school. And this is such a violation of that trust. It's,
in the video, she like looks ahead, and then you can see she kind of senses that the bus driver might be looking back at the road, and then she
exactly
pops and then hits,
she's looking for it. And she's looking for that. And I wish they would go back and review the tape more often, because there are videos obviously in those buses, and there should be an audit process involved. Right. But again,
sounds like they weren't. So
no, and that's it. It seems like there should be someone that at least has, just run the video, and you don't have to watch it in real time. You can run it at 2x, 3x, 4x speed, because when that type of altercation happens, it's obvious. It's obvious. Wait, why is she sitting next to the child at that point? Wait, now slow down the video. And I have people involved, again, we talked about it yesterday, in education here in Colorado, and they pull video on a regular basis in the halls. Where are these kids? What are these kids doing? Why wasn't this kid in class? We talked about it yesterday. Someone in my family is dealing with a child that has 30 absences over the school year. 30 days. And part of the thing that they did is they went back and they were pulling some tape to make sure the person was in class the entire day at certain areas. So they know where they were going in and out. And so they're pulling some tape as far as, it's digital, but they call it pulling tape. And so we're looking to make sure and trying to verify that this is actually 30 absences and not more. Yeah. So, but again, we talked about it yesterday, parent commitment. We've got a parent who's, and again, that you can't make a judgment, because I don't know, and the person involved doesn't know enough about, is this person really sick? Are they dealing with something? Because it is all illnesses. It's not anything else. And it's all illness related. Are they dealing with something, or is it something else? Mm-hmm. Is it something that, and the parent's not going to fight them going to school, or is it something that they are legitimately sick? And the other part being, and I've seen this as well, is the person sick all the time because of something that is happening at school,
in the house,
or
in school?
Yeah, because at school you don't want to go.
Bullying and stuff like
exactly.
that.
Yeah. I know a number of kids.
Did you get bullied when you were younger?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you talked about that. Yeah,
yeah,
I did. I remember getting bullied off the school bus.
Yeah, all the
and
time.
Those bullies didn't turn out too well in life.
I think for me, it started early because I was kind of a weird kid. I was a little bit of a nerd. I was interested in strange things, and in certain areas.
You were?
I know, still am. Yeah, and I got good grades in certain areas. Not great grades all across the board, but in certain things, I had a talent for it, and I was all the time. I think the first time a kid challenged me to fight was, I think it was third grade. Yeah, I think it was third grade was the first physical altercation, and that was on the playground during lunch, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and lucky he was kind of stupid. And so he ran at me, And I'm like, he's going to hit me. And so all I did is I pulled my head down, like, no, don't hit me. And he ran into my head with his stomach, and I knocked the wind out of him. Really weird.
He hurt himself.
Really weird way to sit there. And I'm like, I don't think I won this fight.
Did you tell your kids to fight back in bullying?
We have had discussions as to how and where that goes. And both of the boys have gone through Kung Fu. One of my boys is a black belt.
Really?
So, he's
you.
vicious and can be, in fact. And there are some fun stories with that. But we talked about when and where, because I was the kid in school that stood up against the bullies. I got into altercations because of the bullies. And so the idea that people teased me, I still remember sitting in high school before school, sitting in the hallway and having the guy that is the captain of the football team and the number one pitcher on the baseball team. In fact, he was up for prom king that year, walking down the hall, kicking me in the ankles with my friend sitting there. And he goes, my friends and I think you guys are a bunch of weird dorks, and then insult us and say some things like that. And we go, yeah, we think you're a bunch of a-holes. And they kind of look at us like, so? And they're like, okay. And they walk on all the time.
There was years ago, there was a book called Wild at Heart, written by John Eldridge. It was very popular in evangelical circles on what it means to be a man. And in one of the cases, John Eldridge, the author, says that he told his son, being bullied, that the next time you get bullied, you hit him as hard as you can.
Interesting.
And the Christian world went like, Jesus, took it, said turn the other cheek and all that stuff. And his argument back was, Jesus was a 30-year-old man at master level civil disobedience. If a young boy doesn't know how to confront evil and defend himself, he's going to have a very hard time for the rest of his life. And you want a man later in life to be able to do that for his family. But it ended up in a big debate within evangelical circles. Is Jesus's teaching that you turn the other cheek universal at all moments, at all times? Or is there a role, especially when you're a young boy, to be able to teach them to, throw a haymaker back?
Yeah. My thing with them was once it gets kinetic, if they are putting their hands on you, grabbing things like that, then absolutely. And the conversation I had with them is, and then you end it as quickly as possible. It is not a matter of squaring off and we're going to have a couple of round fight. No, they do that. There are no rules. And there are a couple of things you can do very, very quickly that will bring very, very large people to their knees. And they hurt a lot. and so that's the thing. And I talked about it with my daughters as well. The idea that, okay, you get into a situation where there is a man that is trying to take advantage of you in doing this. Here are the 3 places that you attack immediately. And this is how it ends. And I'm like, this is not about being fair. This is not about fighting above the belt. No. This is about ending it. And there are a couple of places that, it ends very, very quickly.
And I told our boys, if you see one of your family members getting beat up pretty bad, you have an obligation to go defend them.
Yeah. I mean, many people don't know. It takes about 6 pounds of pressure to pop an eyeball out of a socket. It's fairly easy. You know what you're doing. You know how to go at it. It's very, very easy to take out an eyeball. Just saying. Just saying. Maybe
stats you learned on the Jeff and Bill show.
Don't mess with my kids. You'll need an eye patch. You'll be a pirate or something. I'm telling you.
Arizona Supreme Court rules a near total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable. This is from NBC News. The ruling is on hold for 14 days, and voters will likely have a chance to weigh in on the ballot measure to enshrine abortion rights into the state's constitution this fall. The Arizona Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that a 160-year-old near total abortion ban still on the books in the state is enforceable. A bombshell, and I think that's a bit of an overreach, but a bombshell decision that adds the state to the growing list of places where abortion care is effectively banned. The ruling allows an 1864 law in Arizona to stand that made abortion a felony punishable by 2 to 5 years in prison for anyone who performs one or helps a woman obtain one. The law, which was codified in 1901 and again in 1913, outlaws abortion from the moment of conception, but includes an exception to save the woman's life. So there was a lawsuit brought as to whether or not this law was still applicable because they never actually repealed it. whereas some states following Roe v. Wade did. What was interesting was how Kari Lake responded. Remember, this is the Republican nominee for Senate.
Weird.
In addition to covering the state of Arizona, this is her statement, as a fair and honest journalist for 27 years, I have traveled to every corner of the state on the campaign trail. I speak to more Arizonans than anyone, and it is abundantly clear that the pre-statehood law is out of step with Arizonans. Okay. I am the only woman and mother in this race. I understand the fear and anxiety of pregnancy. It's just weird to cast being a pregnant mother in that way. Fear and anxiety of pregnancy, and then the joy of motherhood. I wholeheartedly agree with President Trump, and this was my concern yesterday, that this is a very personal issue that should be determined by each individual state and her people, which is what are we talking? This was the weirdest statement because I'm going, this is a state law. This is a state law. We're not talking about federal law here. I oppose today's ruling, which was a state law, and I'm calling on Katie Hobbs and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonans can support. Ultimately, Arizona voters will make the decision on the ballot come November. All right. So what's the panic? This thing's going to be delayed. The state can respond to it. It's a state law. But then she goes further. As your senator, I will oppose federal funding for abortion. Okay, good. Federal bans on abortion. Really? As your senator, I will fight for baby bonuses, making adoption more accessible and affordable, strengthening the economy so that mothers can afford a baby, protecting IVF, extending the child tax credit, paid family leave, investing in childcare. I'm not going to D.C. to legislate an issue that has been returned to the states. I'm going to D.C. to secure our border, strengthen our families, and help President Trump make America great again. What the hell happened to Republicans?
I think they know which way the wind's blowing.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and it's weird, the ruling for me, because they go previous to a law that was passed a number of decades ago. Like, we're skipping over that one, and we're going to go back to one that happened in the Civil War. and I'm kind of like, wait.
I mean, they're being honest to law, right? So you're supposed to interpret law. This law was never repealed, like somewhere following Roe v. Wade. So you just go back to it. Yeah. But this is,
here's the thing, though.
They're passing 400 freaking laws down in Colorado in 6 months. It's not impossible to change the law. You just go change the law. But what the heck is happening to Republicans where I'm reading that going, this is like a moderate, this is like 90s Democrats on abortion. It's a personal decision, and we're going to allow the people to make this. I am personally pro-life, but when it comes to whether or not I want to legislate morality, come on. I don't know. I was a little disappointed in that. We got Melissa on line one. Let's go to Melissa Lakewood. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Melissa.
Morning.
Hi. It's kind of a comment question, but I'm just wondering, after all these years, why we can't figure out how to not get pregnant. Maybe have some kind of events where they give women, the shot. They can come and, not have to worry for a year or whatever.
Right. I mean, to your point, there's lots of ways to prevent that. And I do think that some people treat abortion as birth control. And they kind of live wild lifestyles. And like, well, if I get pregnant from going out to the clubs this weekend, I just go to Planned Parenthood. They take care of it.
What do you think the percentage of that is, though, of the entire total?
No idea.
What would your feeling be on that? Do you think it is? Okay, here's the idea. Do you think it is plus or minus 50%? Is it half the abortions that are happening, or
probably less? Around that? I'll give you.
I think that's Looney Tunes.
You actually think it's lower?
Oh, much lower. Much lower.
I think a majority of abortion, or not majority. I think about half of the.
Now, Melissa, what's your opinion? What's your opinion on this? What's your over
I
under 50%?
think it's really low. I've had a lot of scares, and it's really low. Just like the rape thing. I mean, that would be terrible to get pregnant, but the chances are really low to scare the women into it just because of things like that. And also, why do they have to take the pregnancy so far? If you already have the stretch marks or you're already this far, why don't they have places where they can have the baby and then people will keep it and they'll do
Melissa, that's where I come with on the idea of the third term. Is one of the things in this conversation that really, really bothers me is the number of third term abortions that are done based on choice. And the majority of those, based on my reading, are because the women find out so late in the pregnancy. They would have made the choice earlier, but since they didn't find out early enough, and there are a variety of reasons of that, some being access to health care and a few others, education and some other things, that then they make that choice late term. And I really wish that we would lean into more opportunities like you're talking about for those women. But then there's also the social stigma. Is that the woman shows up and she's pregnant and everybody at the office sees she's pregnant and everybody at her church or everybody at her community group or book club sees she's pregnant, and then she shows up later and there's no baby. That's an awkward conversation at times. Yeah.
I watched two girls at a restaurant that used to frequent go through their whole pregnancy telling everybody they're not pregnant, drinking the whole time.
Yep. I know people like that too, and denying it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question, Melissa, I got for you. Now, if we're talking about, we know that the people are going to get pregnant, do you think then we need to have, and this is a weird question, more robust sex education classes, maybe starting as early as middle school? Well, then how do we know?
Yeah.
How do we teach the kids not to get pregnant?
Because you know who wrote the curriculum for the comprehensive sex education bill? Believe me, I fought this one.
Yeah. but again, we can talk
freaking
about
Planned Parenthood wrote that bill.
But can't we go in and then change the curricula? I mean, we have.
Yes, I'd love to.
But shouldn't
if you call Planned Parenthood right now, they will just siphon you right away.
Yes.
They don't even try to talk to you. They say, "Would you like to get an abortion?" And then it's like, and you're in the process.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah,
no, it's a money-making death knell.
I think though, if we're sitting here and we're saying we're hoping that these girls and boys make better choices, but we're not going to give them the information, why do we expect they're going to make better choices? That's the thing, is I find it weird that we're like, why can't all of these people make better choices about their birth control and not having sex? But the one thing we can't do is talk to them about the choices in sex ed classes. That's weird.
I'm going to go back to our argument yesterday that it's the parents. It's the parents. It's the parents.
Well, and the condom price has not come down since I was a teenager.
I'm glad you've been checking. I'm not going to ask why. But thank you, Melissa. Have a great day.
Right, Melissa from
I'm teasing. I'm just teasing, Melissa. That
was a great call. Look, is your student ready to live out their faith and prepare for their future career? For over 100 years, Colorado Christian University has been educating the next generation of Christian leaders in a distinctly Christ-centered community. CCU is the premier interdenominational Christian university in the Rocky Mountain region. They offer a world-class education, ranking in the top 2% of all colleges nationwide for their rigorous academics. Students can choose from over 100 undergraduate programs ranging from psychology, entrepreneurship, theology, and engineering to their nationally acclaimed nursing and education programs. CCU cultivates real faith that equips students for all areas of life. Their small campus and Christ-centered community set CCU apart. At CCU, students are known by name, not by number. Professors are mentors, developing students spiritually and professionally. No matter what degree path they choose, your student will graduate from Colorado Christian, ready to impact the world with grace and truth. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/supply. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. The global airline industry is facing a summer squeeze, with travel demand expected to surpass pre-pandemic levels, while aircraft deliveries drop sharply due to production problems at Boeing and Airbus. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
4.7 billion people are expected to travel this year, compared with 4.5 billion in 2019. One leading industry analyst said passenger carriers will receive 19% fewer aircraft this year than expected. They further said U.S. carriers will receive almost a third fewer aircraft than planned a year ago. That's because several airlines depend on Boeing 737 MAX planes. The plane maker is in a sprawling crisis that erupted after a panel blew out in January on an Alaska Airlines flight. Regulators have put a cap on production of the MAX planes as a result, but the company is not even hitting that level. Adding to the problems, many jets made by European giant Airbus are grounded due to engine problems.
Canadian authorities have linked the death of the head of a Sikh temple in Canada's Edmonton to gang members operating out of India. Bhuta Singh Gill was killed on Monday after being shot multiple times. It comes nearly 10 months after a Sikh separatist leader was killed in Canada. The motivation of the killer remains unclear. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
They did.
Giant picture. I'm telling them, you know, people have to eat, right?
We're gonna put you
my face up there, and people have to eat at the same time.
We're gonna put you on a billboard here soon, Bill.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of the pictures. No, not me.
Then we'll get the calls.
Yeah, exactly.
From the ladies.
That's it. Yes.
Speaking of wonderful women, Mary in Wyoming, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Warren.
Good morning. Excuse me. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, one about abortion. I mean, many subscribe it now to a way of life, but you got to forget that back in the slavery days, a lot of the women who were raped by the landowners, they would attempt to abort those kids, and it became a big deal because remember the landowners wanted those children, they wanted them as workers.
Yikes!
Yeah.
But if you go back and read the newspapers back in those days, there was a big bounty about the women because they would, in fact, even when the children were born, they would suffocate them. They did not want those children to be brought up in that environment.
It seems like a horrific situation all around.
Right.
Jeez.
But now where we are now, as I mentioned to Bill when I talked to him, I remember when the pill came out. I mean, people are talking about like this was an opportunity for women all along. That the pill came out when I was a teenager.
Yeah,
and it was not good at the beginning.
No, it was awful.
There were a lot of problems with the birth control pill, and it didn't work in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then to use it, as people keep saying that women, we use it as a way to. I really so disagree with that position.
Clarify what you disagree with.
I disagree that we use it as an that we're not taking it during. I mean, a lot of women it doesn't work for. I remember my son. I mean, I had an IUD. I was taking the birth control pill, and we were using a condom. I still got pregnant.
Yeah.
It was not something that I mean, that was a surprise.
Yeah.
I remember. So I'm just saying that I think women we are more responsible because the men, I mean.
You can say it. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I mean, you seem not to like to do that condom thing.
And Mary, I think
You know
you're
what I
right.
mean?
Oh, Mary, I think you're 110% right and this is, I think, a problem that we have in this discussion is that I hear from many people on the pro-life side of things that they believe the women are going out there being a bunch of whores and then doing this as a convenience. And that is not my experience with anybody that I know that has had to make the difficult choice for abortion. And I think the pro-life side makes that decision because a lot of men go out there and we're a bunch of whores. We don't have to have the responsibility and we don't necessarily think about it that way. So I believe that many of the men feel the women view it the same way. And of all the women to a T that I know that have had abortions, none of them have done it because of loose morals and because they've been going out sleeping with a bunch of people. There have been a variety, a number of reasons, and some of them, like yours, Mary, where the birth control failed.
But I don't think you can discount what the sexual revolution did, and the breakdown of family and the separation out of sex from procreation that took place in our culture from the 60s on, where
I agree.
We have, and abortion becomes the way to deal with it. And I just think that that's wrong. I think the conservative worldview that sex exists within the confines of a committed married relationship, and is geared towards and created by God towards the procreation of children.
I will agree with you as soon as I see the pro-life side want to hold the men as responsible as they want to hold the women.
I will.
I know.
Right here. I'm telling you right now.
I appreciate you for that.
You
I
get a
appreciate
woman pregnant, you need to step up as a father.
Yeah.
And you should be paying child support.
Yeah.
Day
we
one.
we don't do that, and we don't enforce those. I know, and I appreciate you for being that honest. And you are a rare breed inside of the pro-life because they don't push it on the men. It's always about these whore women.
I disagree with that. I'm in the pro-life movement. I've literally never heard that.
Well,
what you just said.
But just, I mean, Mary, just to back me up on this, a minute ago, though, Jeff was talking about the women are using it as a convenience, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I don't believe
there are
that's
some
true.
that do that.
I know some, but a minute ago,
there's always going to be some that are like that, just like there are horror men, the same way.
Yes.
Right. Here's what you have an entire hookup culture that takes place. You were a club guy.
Yeah.
You know what happens Friday night downtown.
Oh, yeah, I know, but
abortion becomes a way to allow you to live that lifestyle and not have to deal with the consequences.
But your assumption is that 50% of the abortions or more are because
but I don't
of that,
know.
and that's not.
I have no idea because we won't even study it.
I know, but what I'm saying is that's your feeling.
I bet it is.
And the stuff, and no.
But how do you know not? You're using your feeling to say something else.
No, not at all, because there are studies out there as far as what the demographics are of the people that walk into the abortion clinics and why they're doing it. There's studies out there that talk about these women and why they walk in. And being a whore is not in the top 10. There are all sorts of other decisions. In fact, there's almost, I think it's somewhere around, I may be overestimating it, but somewhere around 30% of the women that come in to get abortions already have children. They're already mothers and are in a relationship more times than not, and still making that choice.
I was down at the state capitol when we tried to introduce a bill by Stephanie Luck to actually understand this, and the Democrats killed it.
Yeah.
So there is no study here in Colorado as to what's happening.
I didn't say in Colorado. I'm just saying in general, there are studies out there that show, and it doesn't show whoring as being the number one cause for abortion.
I think for you to make that argument, you would have to discount the impact of the sexual revolution and believe that there are just as many abortions today as there were in 1950.
No, the 60s, because that's when the drugs came out. Right. Remember, because I was a child of the 60s. In other words, and there wasn't anything that I didn't try back then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And all I'm just saying, birth control had came out at that, but it was expensive. You had to have it go through the doctor, and which meant that you had to admit, in many cases, to your a generation where the doctor was my family doctor. I would have to admit them that I'm having intercourse.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot of things that went along with that, and I agree. Myself, I am. And it's hard being, if you want to call it, my position of being a Republican, but I do believe that is a woman's right up to a point. It should be in the first few weeks. In other words, it should not have to get that there is a child involved at the end.
Once there's pain involved, because that's a whole other thing we never really got into yesterday. What actually happens in an abortion procedure? Like what actually takes place? The dismemberment, the death, the suffering.
It should not have to go all the way. There should be into the first, I guess I'm saying the first trimester, because the first couple of months, most women don't know they're pregnant.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You may miss your. I mean, in other words, it'd be different if after you have intercourse, bingo bango. Guess what? You need to do something.
Mary, I appreciate the call.
Until
Mary,
2 to 3 months.
Mary from Wyoming, thank you. Really appreciate the call and perspective. All right, we've got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, let's do You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, it is time for the silliness, the stuff that we are not supposed to be doing. Oh, hopefully that the powers that be are not awake to know that we do this. You Choose the News every morning with you, playing a stupid fake radio news game show where we take really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines to waste a little bit of time and have some fun, and also to share some knowledge. Here's some knowledge we're going to drop on you today, both for Jeff Hunt and Blake Olson, who's joining us from the newsroom. Gentlemen, here are your choices to make you, me, and the listener smarter. No pressure. Headline number 1, dying to avoid it. Headline number 2, unexpected manual option. Headline number 3, probably started as a drunken argument. And headline number 4, buried lead.
Drunken argument.
Yes, this probably started as a drunken argument. Oddly sort of connects to the story that we were talking about. Well, it looks like a bunch of the science hippies got into a drunken argument and someone said, hey, mine's bigger. I said, no, mine's bigger. I'll show you. And they said, guys, we can't do that here in the bar. They'll throw us out. Maybe we should make a study. Yes, they finally figured out which men around the world have the largest Johnson. Yes, people were paid to figure this out over and over again. Just so we know.
There's no exaggeration here.
Well, the issue is they didn't rely on any self-reported studies. The other part is, yeah, I know. The other part, if you're wondering, Cambodia seems to have the smallest, Ecuador the largest. The U.S. doesn't even rank in the top 15. I'm not going to tell you everything else, but just saying. So maybe we don't brag about it a lot, but I still want to know that it had to start as a drunken argument, and
yes.
that the entire team was men. It had to all be men. And what other thing would a bunch of men scientists do? I got a thing we can study. I got a thing we can study. Of course.
But then it took a turn when they measured each other.
Yeah, they're like, hey, wait a minute.
I don't trust you.
Yeah, not at all.
I need
it's
to
cold
measure.
in here. It's shrinkage. Okay. All righty, your second choice there. Dying to avoid it, unexpected manual option, or buried lead.
Buried lead.
Yeah, buried lead here. Sometimes the headline of a story doesn't really tell you what the story is about. Here's an example. Found this recently. Headline: dog leads police to skeletal remains and homicide victim. This comes to us from Juarez, Mexico. That seems very shocking. A couple of stray dogs were found to have the skull of a homicide victim that they were playing with. That's the lead of the story. Later on, you understand that, this was found near a part of a highway outside of Juarez where they have found 21 homicide victims recently. It seems to be where you dump your murder victims.
Gosh.
But the lead of the story is the dogs find not the 21 dead people.
I've built a number of homes in Juarez on mission trips.
Where did you bury your bodies?
Those dogs just run around everywhere. They're just living there.
I know.
So.
But the whole idea is dogs find skull. No. 21 dead people. They buried the lead here. And speaking of burying lead, we're going to talk to Blake Olson in the news department. He gets our final choice this morning. All right, sir. Choose wisely. Dying to avoid it or unexpected manual option.
Oh, wow. All right. Dying to avoid it, please. Thank you. 400.
Dying to avoid it. Strangely enough, another story tangentially connected to the topic we've been discussing. Here we are meeting 39-year-old Jesse Kiff. Jesse recently had to plead guilty to one count of aggravated, something or another, and some computer fraud because he decided he really, really, really didn't want to pay his child support. So he faked his own death. So he has one count of aggravated identity theft and computer fraud. What he had done is he hacked into the Hawaii death registry system in January of last year and got details of a doctor that was living in another state, faked that he was that doctor, and said that Jesse had died. Very sadly. Suddenly, nobody expected it. It actually made it into several other government databases, and he continued the hack and got into several other databases beyond that just to make sure that he didn't have to pay the child support. I know.
Now that's a deadbeat dad.
I cannot clean up better than that. Blake Olson for the win. Oh, we'll check into Blake in just a second. That's the end of You Choose the News, sir.
All right, coming up next at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, Ryan Armagost is going to discuss Jenna Griswold. We'll continue to get your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's another day in the Mile High City, and we're gearing up for a whole hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Yesterday, Jenna Griswold down at the state capitol.
Wow.
Forced to explain herself. I'm glad Republicans did this. She was brought up on impeachment charges because of her role in the effort to bring Donald Trump off the ballot. You remember the U.S. Supreme Court decision, 9-0 against Jenna Griswold and those handful of Republican independent folks, attorneys that were suing to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. Republicans looked at that and said, look, you're interfering with democracy. You tried to keep somebody off the ballot. You didn't have the right to do it. That right belonged to Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision agreed with that assessment that you have no right to do this. And so they're going to bring her before committees to charge her. 8-3 decision against impeachment. It went down to party lines. That shows you how many Republicans versus Democrats they have down there. 8 Democrats on one committee, 3 Republicans. So it came down to party line vote. We're going to host Ryan Armagost, the representative that brought those charges against Jenna Griswold, here in just a second.
Glad they had the vote. Finally. If the Democrat, the part that I didn't understand is that the Democrats thought it was so righteous. Why avoid it? Why drag your feet? Even if you say, we're wasting time. Really, you thought this was a good enough thing to do that you went all the way to court and went all the way to the Supreme Court. So now the idea that, we're wasting time. You weren't wasting time when you filed the lawsuit. You were wasting time when Jenna offered her time to go and testify in front of the Supreme Court to make the argument. That wasn't a waste of time. But having her show up in front of the committee is a waste. That's weird. I don't know how politics works. I don't know how this works.
So we'll hear from Ryan in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. 41 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 60 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
We often have to do a lot of fact-finding to try and determine sources of bruises, of illness, of injury.
Last week, I sat in utter disbelief as I finally watched the footage of an LPS professional brutally assaulting Dax.
29-year-old Kiara Jones has been fired by the Littleton Public Schools after she was caught on video punching and stomping a nonverbal student with autism. She's also been arrested and charged with a felony count of third-degree assault against an at-risk person. The 10-year-old named Dax has autism, and his mother spoke out Tuesday at the press conference.
Had bus footage been routinely audited, the torture and torment of my sweet boy could have been stopped.
The parents of 2 other children with autism spoke out as well. All of the parents have been asking for an investigation for months, but they say the district wouldn't do anything to help. A horrific story in Parker. 78-year-old Angel Beaker was found beaten with a hammer, and the 73-year-old husband, James Beaker, is in custody, accused of the brutal killing of his wife. He's held on a first-degree murder charge. It happened April 4th.
This is a situation where there's both right-of-way infringement, there are health and safety risks, and the size of the encampment is too large for us to resolve to housing.
That's Denver and Decay Mayor Mike Johnston. He talked to people from a West Denver neighborhood. They're just sick and tired of the encampment near 8th and Navajo, tired of the smell of human waste and witnessing drug use and violence at this campsite. The city says that it will be cleared by next Tuesday. The cleanest city in the country is now one of the dirtiest. Authorities have arrested 21-year-old Sarah Sandoval in connection with the murder of Gianni Fernandez. He was killed on Friday. Still looking for Caleb Choice and another suspect who may be in Texas. And Gavin O'Blennis, CIA officer and former FBI official, bragging about putting conservative journalists like Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones in jail and practicing near entrapment tactics.
You can kind of put anyone in jail if you know what to do. How? You set them up. You create the situation to where they have no choice but to act on their impulse. And once they act on that impulse, then we call that entrapment. It's a fine line.
Jones confirms that he will sue the FBI and CIA after O'Blennis admitted to destroying his career. You can see the video at Benny Johnson on X. 35 in Broomfield, 36 in Castle Rock, 41 in Denver.
Watch out. Here comes McKinnon. Score!
Nathan McKinnon with his 7th career hat trick. The Avs 5-2 win over the Wild. DU. They take on Boston U tomorrow in the Frozen Four at 3 o'clock. The Masters tees off tomorrow in the first round. Tiger says that, hey, he can win his 6th. The Nuggets beat the Jazz, and the Rockies lose to the Diamondbacks 3-2. It's Hump Day Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, temperatures upper 50s and low 60s today, mid to upper 30s tonight. Highs will be 55 to 60 tomorrow. Now, today and tonight should be dry. There's a small chance of an isolated rain shower, isolated thunderstorm Wednesday afternoon. Fair and chilly, low 30s Wednesday night. Sunny, low to mid 60s on Thursday, 30s and 40s Thursday night, then warming well into the 70s for Friday through Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day on 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us is Ryan Armagost. He's a Colorado state representative that brought the impeachment charges against Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. Representative, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you guys for having me.
So let's talk about these charges. First of all, lay them out. What were the charges you brought against her?
Well, the 6 articles we were accusing her of violating were all essentially malfeasance in office. She has injected herself in every political aspect she can for anything partisan based on her beliefs and her feelings toward people and subjects and everything else. So basically making herself unfit as the chief elections officer of the state of Colorado.
How was it received yesterday? What was her response to those? And what was the kind of room like? Give us some details. Give us a play-by-play of what happened yesterday during this impeachment committee hearing.
Well, I can tell you the mood in the room was kind of the way I had expected. The funny thing is the people that were in the audience were those that were in support of the articles of impeachment. That is not something that is very common in our capital. Usually it's the majority opinion and the majority rule, both in the audience and in the dais. But in this case, the supporters were there, very respectful of the process. You could hear grumbling and everything going on with some of the verbiage that was stated by her. But I think when we laid the groundwork for what we were bringing forward and why, I didn't expect, I can say I did expect to hear the response I did from her and from the majority on the committee. And that was basically deflecting. And everything that we were talking about in her malfeasance, she consistently and constantly deflected it to Donald Trump and insurrection. Those words came out of her mouth pretty much in every sentence that came out of her mouth. So simply pushing it off to something else and not acknowledging or accepting any of what we were saying whatsoever, not even addressing what we were saying whatsoever. It was just simply, this isn't about me. This is about Donald Trump, the insurrectionist.
Right. She put herself as this great savior of democracy. Right. She looked at what happened on January 6th, and in her role as an arbiter of democracy in Colorado, she could not let that stand. Donald Trump had to be confronted. There was a trial-ish in Colorado, and then she was going to carry forth the mantle of liberty and democracy by preventing this totalitarian from being able to even be on the ballot. Now, did you all respond with kind of the hypocrisy of it all? She wants to protect democracy by preventing who people can vote for.
Yeah, and that's kind of the direction we had to keep redirecting to that point. Is this isn't Donald Trump is not on trial here. We are not on trial here. She is not on trial here. This is simply a hearing to see if it is appropriate for an impeachment of our Secretary of State under those circumstances, and how what she's accusing him of doing and affecting and destroying democracy and otherwise using his position to influence, we just kind of, how is it any different from what you are trying to do or have tried to do throughout your time as a Secretary of State? And she would not answer that question.
Talking with Ryan Armagost, the state representative that brought charges against Jenna Griswold, impeachment charges against Jenna Griswold. Your Democrat colleagues on that committee, what was their message yesterday?
Their message was either to, again, same thing, deflect it to Donald Trump and insurrection, and whether or not we believed that the insurrection happened, whether or not we believed Donald Trump won the election, and even readdressing or deflecting it and pushing it back on us. They were trying to accuse us of this or that and not answering questions. And we weren't answering questions that weren't relevant to the resolution. They kept trying to draw it away to Donald Trump and insurrection. And although that was part of the articles of impeachment, it was her role in calling that what she thought it was without any due process or conviction on President Trump.
Why do you think it's such a problem that the Secretary of State is as partisan as Jenna Griswold is?
Well, I don't think it should be a partisan position whatsoever. It shouldn't be a partisan seat, especially when so many people in Colorado do not trust their government and do not trust their elections process. She doubles down and completely turns it into an extremely partisan seat, and she uses that to threaten and otherwise intimidate people. She uses that to block people, remove people from office, and not elected office, but even in her office. The turnover rate there, the fact that we couldn't get any county clerks to come and testify because they were in fear of animosity and retribution is telling. I mean, that screams loud and clear.
There were no Republican secretaries of state or county secretaries, county clerks that were willing to come and testify in support of this impeachment?
Across party lines, we could not find one county clerk that would be willing to come and testify.
So, and I know Bill's got a question here, but I want to just focus in on this real quick. Do you think that's because they didn't believe in the merits of your impeachment articles, or that their fear of retribution from Jenna Griswold? Like, I feel like Jenna Griswold's such a dope. I'd be like, whatever, I could take her on. But I don't know. This is just conjecture, but what do you think happened with those Republican county clerks?
I think a lot of them there were some that were definitely, I don't want to be any part of this, based on their own personal reasons of their feelings of the resolution. But there were some that, and I'm not going to name names, but some that blatantly came out and said, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that'll end well for me.
Jeez. It's like a political mafia down there at the state capitol. That's disappointing. I'm disappointed to hear that. Bill, you had a question?
Yeah. And Ryan Armagost joining Jeff and Bill talking about the proceedings yesterday trying to impeach Jenna Griswold, dies in committee. And I wanted to give voice to someone that called off air just before Ryan was here. And the caller's point was that perhaps we're being too hard on Jenna. Again, caller's point, not necessarily mine. Perhaps we're being too hard on Jenna because she only joined this conversation about getting Trump off the ballot after the lawsuits and after the original fight. Once it went to Colorado Supreme Court and then U.S. Supreme Court, then she started to give voice and talk about it. And the caller was just saying that the narrative that we're selling is incorrect. Can you comment to that, please, Ryan? Because for me, even though it happened, if it did happen after the original set of lawsuits, she still stuck her nose in the business and, in my opinion, overstepped her bounds. But can you speak to that?
I can indeed. And I totally agree. And that was, across party lines that brought the lawsuit as well. And she was named in the lawsuit. And what she could have simply done in that is deflected it. If she wanted to deflect it to the Supreme Court, Colorado Supreme Court, that's fine. But this belongs in the hands of Congress. They're the ones that can ultimately take a federal candidate off of a ballot. So she could have deferred it to our Congress and had that decision there, rather than, yes, doubling down and following through, being the spearhead of the movement. I think was inappropriate as our chief elections officer.
Yeah, I can agree with you because she does have the purview to decide who's on the ballot, but it is clearly outlined what she gets to decide. It's things like citizenship and when you're born and things like that. It doesn't mean you get to choose whether or not the person has committed a crime, however, either civil or criminal. That's not what the Secretary of State is allowed. And I am fascinated. How did Jenna deal with the idea in the conversation in her testimony of why, if she is given this power, why in the world she believes the founding fathers and the state would have set it up that this one office gets to be the gatekeeper over all of who gets to be on the ballot? Did she have any answer for that question?
The only answer she gave in relation to that was that, based on her opinion, it was fact that Donald Trump was an insurrectionist and was guilty and found as such guilty in the court. And even though they had a finding, there wasn't a conviction. There was no due process. She uses that as her ammunition that she was right, and she plays the victim card in this, as she does very well in any case. But this was her finding the fact that he was an insurrectionist and needed to be removed from office, or never allowed back into office.
So basically, she went to the Democrat standby of because I said so. They like that one a lot. So that's basically what she said. It's because I said so defense. Oh, great. That's wonderful.
We're talking with Ryan Armagost. He's the state representative that brought the impeachment charges against Jenna Griswold. They had a hearing yesterday. It did not move past the committee on a party line vote. Democrats standing with other Democrats, Republicans challenging her leadership as state representative. I got a question for you, Ryan Armagost. At the state assembly, speaking to the other Republicans that were part of this, because it wasn't just Jenna Griswold, but down at the state assembly over the weekend, unanimous censure and admonishment of Norma Anderson and the other Republicans. It would be Krista Kafer, Maria Nicolaius, who sued to remove Donald Trump from the ballot under the 14th Amendment and asked them to leave the GOP given their betrayal to our values. I know yesterday was focused on Jenna Griswold being a part of this, but what do you think of the other Republicans that really kicked this whole thing off? Do you think that they should leave the GOP?
Well, I think it was an inappropriate and it almost seemed like an impulsive decision. I think we need to be careful as the Republicans. We need to be and continue to be the adults in the room. We need to stand by what our values are, and that is the Constitution. When we have our opposing party constantly battling and chipping away at our Constitution, we need to hold strong. And whether we like them or not, that is part of our Constitution, is allowing them there. With we have to have freedom of press, and they have to have their ability to get the word out to their people that may not agree with us or whatever. But I don't think that was an appropriate decision to make. I don't think anyone should be removed from office. But I think the biggest thing is the infighting is another thing we need to focus on and stop within our own party. And that's why I'm not going to talk bad about any fellow Republicans and bash them, but that's that's why, and that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Ryan, because I forgot. I don't think it's Sun Tzu, but the strategist that said, when your enemy is destroying themselves, let them. And I see the Colorado GOP at times doing everything they can to make the Colorado Democrats Party as easy as possible this coming fall. I think that they're being their own worst enemy at times.
Yeah, we don't need to embolden the Democrats any more than we have, and any more than they have on their own. We need to embolden ourselves. We need to unify. We need to be that front, and we need to get seats back, especially in our House here in the Capitol. We need to start filling Republican seats, and the only way to do that is to unify and have that front moving forward.
What's your response to the critique that yesterday was a waste of time? We knew that this was going to go the way it did. The Republicans were going to oppose. The Democrats were going to stand together. This was never going to make it through the committee. Let's get back to legislating down at the state capitol. What's your response to that critique?
I heard that ad nauseum yesterday, and I've heard that in a few different interviews. The fact that we knew it wasn't going to get out of committee, nothing we have that's partisan on our side or seen as partisan on our side ever makes it through committee. It never sees the light of day. We knew that was going to be the same case for this resolution. But then we get accused of it being political theater and otherwise used to further our Republican base and our voting and this and that. It doesn't do anything of that. The only thing we brought this forward for is this is the only way we in the super minority can get our voices heard. And this impeachment hearing is the only way we could bring attention and accountability to Jenna Griswold. The fact that there's no other way it would have happened. She plays the victim card, like I said, on media. She plays it on her social media. But she wants to be seen as the hero of anything. And anyone that wants to take her crown away is demonized as a conspiracy theorist or an election denier or a MAGA Republican, an extreme right winger, blah, blah, blah. She just goes on and on. But instead of ever owning up to anything, it's always, no, you are. That's her playground tactic that she always uses in anything that she does. But yeah, we were told this was a sham and political theatrics and everything else that we were trying to do in there. And there was nothing theatric about it. Everything that we did was to the point. We had to keep redirecting to the point, but this is what we face on a daily basis. And to say that we're wasting taxpayer money on a hearing like this, if anyone wants to come and spend a day or 2 days or 4 months like we do at the Capitol and see the things that we have to argue on a daily basis, the ridiculous Democrat bills that we have to argue on a daily basis that pass. Some of them don't, but most of them pass. But all we do is make noise, and all that's happening is wasting taxpayer money and then bulldozing these ridiculous and horrible bills for Colorado through on a daily basis for 120 days straight. So for them to call it a waste of time and a waste of this and that, this was, I think, the one thing that we did that was worthwhile besides these bipartisan bills that make it through this entire session.
Yeah, that was weird, Ryan, that they said this was a waste of time because my point of view has been, if you felt that you were so righteous and correct, you should be trumpeting this from the top of the mountain. You should be taking advantage. Again, if you felt that you are so correct about being able to remove Trump from the ballot, you better be taking every opportunity given to you to enumerate why you are correct. This would have been a press opportunity for them to say, look how wonderfulist we are, and look at how wrong the U.S. Supreme Court was, and we have been wrong deeply. They could have done that. But no, they were afraid of this. I think that tells us a heck of a lot more about their understanding of their position than what they say publicly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, here's a question that I have, and I don't know, Ryan, if you can be the best one to figure this out. If she had been successful in keeping Donald Trump off the ballot, and as we saw, 2/3 of Republicans in Colorado voted for him in the primary, what would have happened? I mean, go ahead, Ryan.
I think it would be a complete disaster. The fact that on every level, based on the riots with Antifa and the riots with associated with January 6th and the outcome of the election, the Antifa riots were far worse than anything we've experienced on our conservative side, but those are ignored. But the fact that we are on the brink on both sides of that, of civil discourse and, just complete all out chaos in our communities, I think that in and of itself is something that people are very careful on how things are handled, because something like that could easily spin us off into some pretty intense and serious civil discourse in our country, and especially in our state. But the lawsuits and everything that would have come from that, the constitutional challenges that would have come from that, it would have been the most costly, mistaken decisions that anyone in our state or otherwise could have made if this made it through the U.S. Supreme Court and into Congress. But yeah, I can only imagine it just would have been a complete nightmare and disaster.
It would have been a complete disaster. And in part, it's, and I see this in the Democrat side. I see this also on the Republican side at times, again, because I sit as an unaffiliated. But I see that what the Democrats were trying to do in removing, and still trying in some states, to remove Donald Trump from the ballot is just doing exactly what they claim he does. They claim he's going to come in and be a dictator. He's going to come in and he is going to blow up our system of government. Yet here in Colorado, we had some people that said maybe people on the other side don't get to choose the candidate they're going to vote for. Maybe we get to decide who their candidate should and shouldn't be, which is kind of the same thing when you get into a dictatorial type of government. It's where the government is choosing the opponent. They got a problem there. Got a real problem with it.
Yeah. And like I said last time we spoke, the precedence that would set, if they can simply remove a candidate from a ballot based on personal feelings and accusations, all they would need to do is file a false accusation against somebody and say, look, that person did this. We need to remove them from the ballot before they're even found guilty or convicted. Go through a due process. Just simple accusations and personal feelings. They don't like somebody.
Oh, it's not even accusations, Ryan Armagost, who's joining Jeff and Bill right now. It's just feelings. Because as you outlined, Jenna Griswold feels this way. So the idea being that then the Secretary of State, based on their personal feelings, gets to decide who's on the ballot and off the ballot. Oh, my Lord. That is a nightmare. Yeah.
Ryan Armagost, state representative, bringing the impeachment charges against Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Thank you guys again.
Sure appreciate that. I'm so glad they pushed so hard. It's so difficult, and he is fighting against a headwind so often. And I really, really appreciate that he continued to fight on this one, as difficult as it was. But this is something that had to be done, and you had to bring it to light. You had to make them defend her.
Bill, that sentiment was not shared among other Republicans.
Really?
Yeah, some felt like this was a big distraction, a waste of time. They wrote about it in Colorado politics that Republicans have better things to do.
Like what?
Yeah, right.
What are we doing?
Especially when you're in a minority, super minority.
Yeah. What is the better thing?
I like the fact they did this at the very beginning because look, this is the way that the Democrats fight. And that's not always the measure stick by which Republicans should engage. I get that. But the minute Donald Trump got in, it was impeachment, committee hearings, investigations, go, go, go. Why? Not because they're committed to the truth, but because it trips up your administration and they now have to deal with it. And it's ineffective. If you pin me down purely Machiavellian, right? It's an effective way to disrupt your political opponent. Yeah. And in some ways, I'm like, Republicans, you're starting to learn.
Well, the Republicans are doing it right now with Biden, because remember, before Biden was inaugurated, they talked about impeachment. Yeah. So same type of thing. And see,
is it good for our politics? That's another question. Yeah. But
I appreciate, and I'm questioning the Colorado Republicans that think this was a waste of time, because I'm wondering what those higher level priorities are. And the reason I ask is because the GOP is in the minority, and one of the most effective ways that you can press against the majority is to force them to defend their idiocy. It is incredibly effective when you force them to defend their stupid ideas in public. That's one of the best ways a minority party can get voice, and also in some ways slow down the crazy. And so I disagree vehemently. This was a strong move by the Colorado Republicans for two reasons. One, you kind of slow down the crazy. But 2, always, always, always force them to defend their idiocy. Always say, if you think this is such a great idea, let's talk about it in public. Let's have you defend it and make the case. If you really think this was so fantastic, let's have the conversation, just like we do here on the show. Same thing.
How many people do you think in the Democrat Party are proud of Jenna Griswold?
Oh, here's the idea. I think when she first started, I think it was high fives all around. Oh, yeah, fighter. High five, high five. But it's the sanctuary city problem. We make the broad gesture, but we don't understand the implications of what happens once you make the statement. And the Democrats did not understand the implications once they made the statement. And that was the problem, is they didn't think all of this through. It was the idea of, hey, sanctuary city, isn't this great? Oh, yeah, we feel so good about ourselves, not understanding what that meant. And so I really, really appreciate Ryan Armagost spending the time with us, but more importantly, pushing on this, because make them defend their idiocy every single time. It's one of the best things you can do as a minority
Bill
party.
Thorpe, art of war.
That's what I would do.
Defend your idiocy. Step 1.
I have to defend my idiocy every day.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. What did you think of the Jenna Griswold impeachment proceedings that took place yesterday? Are you proud of Republicans for pushing that? Was it a waste of time? Do you like Jenna Griswold? Are you proud of the work that she's doing? I'd love to get one call of somebody proud of Jenna Griswold.
Yeah. What is she doing well? What do you like about her? Yeah. Would you vote for her again?
If
she's up on the ballot, would you vote again? Would you flip that switch? I'm curious. Why?
303-696-1971. She does want to be governor. So think of that. With all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me feel and look amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor. Go there. Staff goes beyond expectations. They provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, reasonable, gentle, careful, kind service. And if you're experiencing recession on your upper or lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. It's scalpel-free, suture-free, and a graft-free procedure. Just a tiny pinhole and gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. 303-233-1335. Great guy was in the studio the other day. I've had just about every procedure you can have done on my teeth, and we were talking about implants. He said he's done 5,000 implants.
Wow.
5,000 implants. So you know you're getting a real pro with Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. All right, calls are starting to pour in. We'll get to your text messages as well. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. The parents of a US teenager who killed 4 students at his Michigan high school have been sentenced to between 10 and 15 years in prison. James and Jennifer Crumley were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in separate trials earlier this year. Prosecutors say the two showed a chilling lack of remorse. It's the first time a parent of a school shooter has been held directly responsible for the actions of their child. In a bombshell ruling, Arizona's Supreme Court has reinstated a 160-year-old law banning nearly all abortions, a law that took effect before women had the right to vote and before Arizona even became a state. Tony Waterman has more.
The justices, all appointed by Republicans, ruled that the 1864 abortion ban supersedes a 15-week ban that came into effect after Roe v. Wade was overturned. The ruling will take effect in 14 days, and doctors who perform the procedure could face up to 5 years in jail. But it's unclear how the law will be enforced, since the state attorney general has vowed not to prosecute any cases. This decision, though, could impact November's elections. Arizona is a major battleground state, and polling shows that nationwide, abortion is a top issue.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just finished wrapping up talking with Ryan Armagost, the state representative that brought the impeachment charges against Jenna Griswold. I loved when he was like, Jenna always plays the victim. And it was going back in my mind, Bill, to when she was out there complaining about her student debt. I have over $200,000 of student debt. So what did the great listeners of 710K in US do?
Yeah, what? What did we do?
We organized some money and sent her a free, or not free from our, but free from her perspective, gift certificate to attend the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Universities.
That's fantastic.
Because, Jenna, we don't want you to be a victim anymore. And I'm sorry you got sucked into getting too many student loans for the career that you now have, which seems to be perfectly fine.
I think I'd look at, for me, with that, I remember that. Part of it was, wasn't it going to doing the law talking stuff? That was what she was mad about. And so I'm like, but you've chosen not to do the law talking stuff. So stop complaining to me about the fact that you spent all this money going to get a degree and then choosing not to use the degree. So stop whining about that. I don't want to hear any whiner baby talking to me about getting a degree in some area and then we're going to have to stop it. The other part is I think you make more than most of us. So
yes, she does. So stop complaining.
So, again, you want to switch salaries with some of the people that listen. Do you want to see if you can make ends meet, and then we'll talk about your student debt. Until then, maybe a little perspective.
Oh, Jenna.
I know.
She could very well become the governor of this state the way our people vote.
Yep, absolutely. And she's positioning herself. That was part of the reason I think she got into this fight. She wanted to show that she was the fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things she had to and
fighter for democracy by reducing democracy.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, her instincts were wrong. She chose the wrong fight. We'll see.
Oh, Joan Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710K in US. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
What did you think of that Jenna Griswold proceedings? Were you listening to it yesterday?
Yeah, I had a meeting at 12:15, so I could not go down with some people. There were about 75 people in the room taking notes and watching history being made, because, how often do we impeach anybody? And, I think this was terribly worthwhile, because what we got was clips of craziness to run against these Democrats in the next election. I mean, you can't imagine some of the silly things they were saying.
Like what?
Well, at the very end, there was a committee member. They were going around and they were saying why they were going to vote yes and why they were going to vote no. And this woman veered off into abortion and statements. Yeah, and I'm sitting here going, this has nothing to do with any of that, but we have to make that. And then the thing that was truly interesting is how many times they said, democracy, democracy, democracy. And it was like every other word was democracy. We have to save the democracy. And if we had been playing some kind of drinking game.
Oh, that's great.
That would have been funny. I've seen those State of the Union drinking games before.
I may have played a few.
It's weird. I almost had to wear a hat for Joe Biden when he.
I still think you should.
Lincoln Riley.
Should. I still think you should. Her name. I think you're splitting hairs there. You're violating the spirit of the.
I'm going to get a hat that says her name is Laken Riley.
Or just get a hat that misspells Biden's name.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I think
Joan?
one of the better people was Scott Gessler.
Oh, yeah, why?
He made this Democrat committee member rephrase a question 4 times because he wasn't phrasing it the way that you could to testify and stuff. It was too vague, then it's too broad, then it was. And so 4 times this man had to redo this. And it was all about, aren't you here to just gin up the base? Right? Aren't you here? And he was like, I'm not running for office. It's not my base. And there was, he asked like several different times, and he got finished after the 4th time. And Scott Gessler goes, I don't think I can speculate on that. It was hysterical.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was really funny. And then the other thing that was terribly good is there's this woman here in Jefferson County. Her name is Carrie Mama. And she has been a registered independent most of her life. There was one period where she did register as Republican for, I think, like a year. And she went down there as just a voter and testified. Yeah. And boy, they had a hard time with that because, they have all these panel people and experts and they can pick them all apart. But start picking on a voter and see where it gets you. Ooh, and there were two people there that weren't experts. And this was brilliant on the part of the Republicans to bring these people in. And then they got to read the resolution like at 10 o'clock before they went on. When did you get to read this resolution? How can you be testifying? You don't know what the resolution says.
Oh, jeez.
It was really, really
Joan,
bad.
Why don't you think any Republican county clerks went to support the Republicans down there?
There was a Republican county clerk. No, she was a Democrat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Jeffco Democrat clerk went down, and I'm sitting here going, so tell me again why you should be testifying about Jenna Griswold using $1.4 million for PSAs and things to get her face out there. And they had to pass a law last year. They had to pass a law last year to prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. And I was sitting here going, why? Because she abused her taxpayer money. And guess what? County Clerk Gonzalez abused taxpayer money here with her $7,000 appreciation.
Yeah, I get why Democrats would support each other. I guess I was shocked and kind of disappointed to hear that no Republican county clerk was testifying against Jenna Griswold's failure to lead that office in a bipartisan way to support the democratic voting rights of Republicans in this last primary. Where are the Republicans on that?
I'll tell you where they are. Scared. This woman is so vindictive. She gets rid of people out of her office. She comes after you. She is very, very vindictive.
I don't think that's good enough. I'm sorry. I just think that they should have stepped up on this.
I would have liked to see the Republican county clerk come in and just go off the idea of, okay, here's my impression of the job. Not take shots necessarily at Jenna, but bring them up and say, as a county clerk, do you get to decide this? As a county clerk, do you get to decide this? As a county clerk, do you decide this? And walk them through and look at the parameters of what the job is. I think that would be very strong because then you don't get the clerk throwing the rocks and you get the person asking the questions throwing the rocks. And I think that could have been very effective. And I do agree with Jeff that I would have liked to have a Republican county clerk there to say, this is what our job entails. Yep. This is how I do it.
I'm the referee. This is how we do it.
Yep.
Right?
And you don't have to say that she did it wrong. You just say, this is our job. This is our job. This is our job.
And they'd never get any funds to do their job. I promise you. She was using funding, her $1.5 million to put out her PSAs and stuff, and she was not giving funding to the clerks.
Joan from Lakewood, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening in and letting us know. Appreciate that.
Hey, folks, it's Jeff Hunt on behalf of the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun, but the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant variants, and they are leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them. In the 8 o'clock hour, Richard Holtorf is going to join us. He's called for the resignation of Colorado GOP Chairman Dave Williams. I just texted with Dave, and we're going to get Dave's response on Friday.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So the news, the battle for the future of Colorado takes place right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS.
And I love the fact that Holtorf is joining us because we're going to get some of that cowboy talk. One of the things that I appreciate the most out of him is that lack of filter. You find that
he was shot by his brother.
I know it
happens.
There very few.
Yeah, lack of a filter.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe that we have very few in politics that are willing to have discussions without that filter. And I respect the hell out of him for being willing to do that. I really appreciate it.
Top of the 8 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to Joe in Arvada. Joe, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff. I just have 2 quick points. The reason that the clerks wouldn't testify is simple. They're afraid.
I don't care. I don't care if you're afraid of Jenna Griswold. Come on.
Well, no. It isn't that. It's what happened to the clerk down in Mesa, or what's her name?
Tina Peters.
Oh, yes, Tina Peters. See, the whirlwind will be cooked up against any clerk that comes out, including the Republicans that are establishment folks will come out against them. So they didn't want to come out of the closet.
I'd like that fight. You wouldn't have to pay me to fight in not a physical way, but in a intellectual way with Jenna Griswold. I would take that on for free. But go ahead.
Well, they were afraid. That's why. But here's the second thing that I wanted to point out. We can have our own impeachment of at least some of these nut job judges. Monica Marquez comes up for confirmation again, or, what do they call that, where the judges, you can select them out in 2025. I hereby announce it to the world, get rid of these communist judges. Monica Marquez, the Republicans in Colorado can stamp you out, and let's do it.
These judges, they are so bad that every Republican knows that you're going to lose anything you do in the state of Colorado until you get out of the state and get to the district, federal, or Supreme Court. That's how bad. Look what they did to Jack Phillips. Look what they did to 303 Creative. You're exactly right in the sense that they are communist judges, always on the side of the radical left. They're never fair when it comes to treating conservatives according to the Constitution.
Well, look around, communist judge. What have you done to us? Look at our state. You have helped destroy it. Your hand at the mallet has helped destroy our state. We want you out. Republicans band together to stamp out communist judges.
Woo, Joe spit in the fire today. I appreciate the call, Joe. Thanks so much.
Man. That was great. Wow.
Joe, that was great. Joe from Arvada, thanks so much for the call. Yeah, gosh, I'd love somebody to take on these judges.
Yeah, that's a whole nother issue. Yeah,
because nobody knows who to vote for. You just get this list of judges.
Yeah,
all right,
and the judges don't want to have any oversight. So yeah, it's a huge issue.
Up in the 8 o'clock hour, Richard Holtorf. He's got some words for Dave Williams. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you that is a good song, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy, and maybe even some fighting words that are about to come on up here.
Oh, yeah.
It's another great day in the city of Denver. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. I wish we could play that like Wild West song right now, you know, is
good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Here's Richard Holtorf yesterday evening. I am calling for the Colorado GOP chair to resign. Richard Holtorf is a state rep that represents the eastern part of the state. Republican, he's also running for CD4. Dave Williams, these are his words. Dave Williams has used his position as chair to presumably hijack the state party for his own political campaigning and selfish outcomes, including using the state GOP email account, mailing list, and other GOP resources. I hope the FEC is watching and take a good look at his actions. Dave Williams should resign so a fair and impartial Republican primary campaign can take place. The State Central Committee should revoke all individual candidates' endorsements in all contested races to return the Republican process to a fair and transparent election cycle. We're going to get words from him in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson.
All right. Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 43 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 60s today. Going to be a beautiful day. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, a resolution to impeach Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold failed 8-3 Tuesday. House Republicans brought the impeachment resolution forward after Griswold laid the way and trying to lead the way to leave former President Trump off the state ballot. Representative Ryan Armagost brought the charges.
We had to keep redirecting to that point. Donald Trump is not on trial here. We are not on trial here. She is not on trial here. This is simply a hearing to see if it is appropriate for an impeachment of our Secretary of State under those circumstances, and how what she's accusing him of doing and affecting and destroying democracy, otherwise using his position to influence, how is it any different from what you are trying to do or have tried to do throughout your time as a Secretary of State? And she would not answer that question.
Armagost on with Jeff and Bill last hour. 29-year-old Kiara Jones has been fired by Littleton Public Schools after she was caught on video punching and stomping a nonverbal student. She's also been arrested and charged with a felony count of third-degree assault against an at-risk person. She is bonded out. The 10-year-old named Dax has autism, and his mother spoke out Tuesday at a press conference.
Had bus footage been routinely audited, the torture and torment of my sweet boy could have been stopped.
The parents of two other children with autism spoke out as well. All the parents have been asking for an investigation for months, but they say that the district would not do anything to help. A Parker man in custody accused of the brutal killing of his wife on April 4th. 78-year-old Angel Beaker was found beaten with a hammer in the couple's home. She died later of her injuries. 73-year-old James Beaker is being held on a first-degree murder charge. Denver and Decay Mayor Mike Johnston spoke to residents in West Denver last night.
This is a situation where there's both right-of-way infringement, there are health and safety risks, and the size of the encampment is too large for us to resolve to housing.
They're sick and tired of seeing and smelling human waste. Imagine that. Witnessing drug use and violence at a encampment near 8th and Navajo. The city says that it'll take the steps to clear it out by Tuesday. And then guess what? They'll move to a neighborhood near you. Open borders and enabling at its best. Denver police searching for a hit and run driver who crashed into two Montbello High School students on Tuesday. They suffered serious injuries. It happened at around 5 o'clock. Two mothers who lost their sons to distracted driving car crashes, sharing their stories at the Lifesavers Conference on roadway safety in Denver. 700 people have been killed in a 10-year period from distracted driving in our state alone.
We need people to step up to the plate. We need them to put their phones down. We need them to buckle up, and we need them to just drive. That's all we want them to do. When you're behind the wheel, we want you to just drive.
Amen to that. 39 in Arvada, 40 in Lone Tree, 43 in Denver.
Watch out. Here comes McKinnon. Score!
Nathan McKinnon with his 7th career hat trick last night. Avs 5-2 win over the Wild. DU takes on Boston U tomorrow in the Frozen Four. The Nuggets beat the Jazz, and the Rockies lose to the Diamondbacks 3-2. It is Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, temperatures upper 50s and low 60s today, mid to upper 30s tonight. Highs will be 55 to 60 tomorrow. Now, today and tonight should be dry. There's a small chance of an isolated rain shower, isolated thunderstorm Wednesday afternoon. Fair and chilly, low 30s Wednesday night. Sunny, low to mid 60s on Thursday, 30s and 40s Thursday night, then warming well into the 70s for Friday through Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day on 710 KNUS.
All right, the Republican cowboy from the eastern part of Colorado, State Representative Richard Holtorf joins us. He's also a candidate for Congressional District 4, and late yesterday evening called for the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party to resign. Dave Williams has used his position as chair to presumably hijack the state party for his own political campaigning and selfish outcomes, including using the state GOP email account, mailing list, and other GOP resources. I hope the Federal Election Commission is watching and takes a good look at his actions. Dave Williams should resign so a fair and impartial Republican primary campaign can take place. Representative Holtorf, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Bill, for the invitation.
So
we're in very tough times right now. There's a lot of things going on that aren't healthy for politics and aren't healthy for Colorado.
Yeah, let's dive into this. Is this a response to him and the state party endorsing Lauren Boebert for your seat, or is this a bigger issue in your mind?
Oh, this is a bigger issue. The endorsement that Dave Williams sent out on Monday was just what put me over the edge with the many antics and things that Dave is doing. You know, traditionally, we Republicans have said we want fair, impartial primaries. We don't want undue influence. We want to invite all Republicans to run and feel like everybody has an equal chance to become a candidate and also be elected to public office. So it starts with that. And arguably that we've been on a trajectory to go something in a very different direction than that with state party leadership over the last 6-8 months.
The response from the state party has been, during the assembly, we passed Resolution 10 that the Republican Party endorses and supports only those candidates in the primary election who have gone through the caucus and assembly process while subjecting their candidacy to a vote of their respective district assemblies. Their argument going, look, we laid this all out in front of the assembly on Saturday, and they voted to allow us to do that. What's your response to that?
Well, thank you for that very important point. And that's actually the primary reason for me doing what I've done. So let's talk about that, because procedure and mechanics matter. I was at state assembly. I was at district assembly. I participated in the caucus and assembly process. I received 15.5% of the delegate vote in the district assembly, and I'm now going to be on the ballot. So I've taken that journey. But what I witnessed at state assembly was very troubling. First of all, Dave, and Colorado Republicans, listen up. And I told Dave this on Saturday. I said, Dave, what are you doing? So we voted with a standing vote on 10 of these resolutions. Did you know, Colorado, did you know, Republicans, that we hadn't even done the final credentialing before the state chair called for that vote? Mechanics matter in elections. We talk about election integrity. Procedures matter. You can't call for a vote until all delegates have been 100% properly credentialed. That's called voter identification. That's the first problem. The next problem is we did a standing vote in that assembly of everybody who were delegates, who were alternates, who were guests, who were media, who was standing, who was sitting. That's another problem. Nobody knew because we hadn't fully credentialed all of the delegates. Dave Williams, the procedures and mechanics matter. Now, there are some good things. We had better ID checks than we do in an election in the state of Colorado because people, delegates, their voter identification and their credentials were checked, but it wasn't ratified and verified and announced before he started the vote because we were way behind on credentialing. It was 2:30. We were still doing it. And he started calling for votes. And not only that, the opt-out order vote he called for, and we still hadn't done the final credentialing. Now, here's another thing, Jeff, that really bothers me. When you're doing something on 10 resolutions, the chair of the state party should not be jiding, goading, or being sarcastic and giving sarcastic quips from the podium. I heard Dave Williams say on one resolution, when he said, call for the aye vote, everybody stand. Then he called for the no vote and said, vote no if you dare. What does that mean? What does that mean to a delegate body? Well, I will tell you, there's real problems when we start talking like that. The arrogance of the chair was palpable, and it was troubling, sir.
So we're talking with Richard Holtorf, who called for the resignation of Dave Williams, chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. Why not just wait until that office is opened up? We're going into the primaries now, or the primaries and then the general election. This is playoff time for the sports team. If you don't like the head coach, is it best to swap him out at this point or wait and get to the next opening at that seat?
Here's the problem, Colorado. Here's the problem, Colorado Republicans. Dave Williams is creating very, very dangerous precedents for Colorado. And here's what I see as he tries to build this endorsement ticket. That he's even called it a slate of candidates that he's building. Should Republicans and Republican candidates have to kiss the ring of the GOP or the GOP chair? Should Republican candidates have to kiss the ring or bend the knee to a district executive committee or a county leadership? This is a very dangerous precedent. And I've watched Dave in the state capitol starting in 2020. I watched his toxic leadership, his divisive leadership. He's not a uniter, Colorado. He's a divider. And he's very selfish in his interests as he builds and looks and works towards a Trump-esque ticket in Colorado. Now we've got Boebert. Now we've got Williams, and that's not right. Colorado is its own state. Dave Williams is supposed to be working for the Colorado GOP and every Republican in this state, not for Trump, not for Donald J. Trump's campaign. He's been working so hard to get this endorsement. He even passed resolutions saying, and worked towards and achieved resolutions that say we're going to have Trump as a presumptive nominee and discount any other candidate. Once again, going back to the tradition.
Richard,
should we be fair, impartial, and allow and not have undue influence as a state party across the board? I say yes. That's the proper role of county assemblies, district assemblies, and the state assembly.
Richard Holtorf, I'll give you this. I'll grant you the idea that Dave Williams has definitely been on the nose about his endorsements as a chairman of the GOP in a way I've never seen before. But every Republican chairman I've known and worked with wanted to go to battle with the slate he or she wanted. It was, while they may not be out there directly endorsing, they were actively working even behind the scenes to go, this is the team I want to go into the battle in November with. Why is what Dave Williams doing any different than that?
Well, it's very different. You described why it's different, sir. Because yes, people have their personal opinions and they have their preferred candidates, and that's okay. But when you are so open and blatant and arrogant in front of the entire state, in front of the entire state delegation, in a time when the Republican Party has many problems, you should be leading Dave from the front to unite this party, to build this party, to make sure everybody has a seat at the table. You know, here's another thing, Jeff, you might want to point out. Of a delegation of 752 or 3 delegates, we only had 550 some show up. We were 200 delegates short. Now, Colorado, that tells you something. Does that mean those people don't want to participate? Are they marginalized? Are they left out? Are they disenfranchised? Do they not like the leadership that's coming from the state party? Now, they brought in alternates, but there weren't enough alternates to fill all the vacancies. Dave, you might want to be looking at that statistic and do a little introspection and find out where's the rest of your party, because we need to rebuild. We need to retool. We need to bring everybody under that big tent that Ronald Reagan used to talk about. Not marginalized, disenfranchised, and then be quick, as he did on Monday, to say, oh, Boebert's the candidate. Well, she's got the Trump endorsement. Dave's got the Trump endorsement. Everybody's looking for the Trump endorsement. You know, and Trump arguably was a great president. His policies are amazing. His mouth gets him in a lot of trouble. People say, well, Holtorf, you've got the same problem. Don't be a hypocrite. And maybe I do. But I'm going to call things out when they're wrong. And Dave has done too many things wrong. People are not wanting to stand up and say anything because they're weak at the knee. They shake and shiver, and they don't want to have to face the wrath of the mighty Dave Williams at the head of the GOP. Well, look at El Paso County and look at the mess that they have in El Paso County. El Paso County Republican Party is fractured, divided, and it is broken. It's a broken plate laying on the kitchen floor. Who's putting that back together? If they can't even get their own party right, Dave Williams, how can you step up and use the same type of leadership to bring it to the state? And that's what I see, guys. Bill, I want you to weigh in on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I only look at it from the Eastern Plains looking in.
Yeah, Jeff and Bill talking with Richard Holtorf. Richard's calling for the resignation of the Colorado GOP party chair, Dave Williams. And what I'm really curious about, Richard, is we have lawsuits and we have things that are talking about open primaries, that the Republicans should be the ones to choose who is on the ballot. It is about the party making the choice, and the party's voice has to be respected, and we need to get all these other people out of there. Yet what I'm hearing from Dave Williams, at least in your perspective, is that Dave Williams is not looking to have the party make the choice. He's looking for the chair to make the choice. And that's the part that I have some cognitive dissonance with, is if we are really, really, truly married to that idea that the party should be voting and making the choice, why does it give us the appearance that the chair is putting their thumb on the scale?
Because he is. You know, sometimes when you smell smoke, there might be a fire. You might want to look around and find out where the smolder is coming from so you can put it out. Now, I am a big fan of a closed primary. Colorado Republicans understand it is the right thing for Republicans to elect Republicans. And pick a side of the fence you want to sit on or stand on. Don't sit on the fence. Get off the fence and get on the right side or the left side. I 100% believe that personally. Now, what needed to happen on Saturday, and I told Dave this, I said, Dave, what the hell were you doing? What were you thinking? You should have had a ballot, 100% ballot for the open or closed primary, the delegate body and credentialed voters. The procedure and mechanics matter. We talk about election integrity. We beat the drum on Maricopa County and how there's cheating. And I'm not inferring that people cheated. On Saturday, we had a very good balloting for the election that we had, which was for the Republican National Committee woman. did a great job on
I
that.
do want to
And
go back to that resolution, though. Resolution number 10, did that change the bylaws of the state party?
Well, I have it right here before me. And it says right here, and it starts out, whereas dark money groups, left-wing agitators, and rhino saboteurs, which is pretty inflammatory language, are trying to eliminate the caucus and assembly process through ballot initiatives. So it's really pushing back against ballot initiatives and also people that petition on, pure petitioning candidates, legislation and open primaries, while encouraging candidates to bypass party delegates by paying the petition signatures and not submitting themselves to a vote of an assembly. All right, I get that. Go through assembly, answer to the Republicans, and don't just petition on and pay your way on. I'm the only candidate, by the way, that had a pure volunteer circulator and petition team, didn't pay one nickel for a petition. And oh, by the way, the Secretary of State just reached out to me and told me that I'm in very good shape with over 1,860 cheered signatures.
So are you officially on the ballot then? Have they made that announcement?
Well, well, you guys got the news first, but it's not official because the Secretary of State has to issue the certificate. But Colorado, whole tour for Colorado, whole tour for Colorado.com will be on the ballot in June. So you got it first. The certificate's coming out later today or tomorrow from the Secretary of State's office. But be advised that with respect to this, it further says, so people are paying to play. Every other candidate that petitioned on, and the other candidate, the other two candidates, by the way, there was 4 candidates at assembly. Of course, Ted Harvey got boxed out by Douglas County, didn't get the 30% threshold that you needed as to go through assembly. But the other 2, I won't mention their names, but you know who they are. They paid $10, $20, $30 a signature. So they're paying to play. I didn't do that. I didn't spend one plug nickel with my volunteer force of over 32 volunteers across this state. Now that's grassroots. But let's get back to this resolution. Colorado Republican Party endorses and supports only those candidates in the primary election who have gone through the caucus and assembly process while subjecting their candidacy to a vote of their respective district assemblies. All right. Why didn't Jay Williams say we respect all these people that went through their district and the state assembly and their district assemblies and presented themselves to the state and interviewed in that process? Well, that would have been more than one name. Then it says, be it further resolved that county parties and any other district central committees are also allowed to endorse and support candidates. Whoa. Step on the brakes, Colorado.
Yeah, that's weird.
Wait a minute. Here's where I have a problem that have gone through the caucus and the Senate while subjecting their candidacy to vote of their respective district assemblies. Okay, now you have to step on the brakes and say, wait a minute. So now counties and districts are going to be able to endorse and support candidates? That's never been done before. And then the state central committee and the state chair is going to have the same privilege? That's never been done before now. And they've been pushing this idea, and now they've done it. So are we kissing the ring? Are we bending the knee now as a candidate? Do you have to go to your county and say, Mother, may I please? I'm bending the knee. I'm prostrating myself to you.
And I understand, Richard, I understand the frustration, but didn't Republicans vote to support this?
Well, how did they vote? Let's pivot back to procedures and mechanics matter. Were you there at State Assembly? Oh, yes, you were.
I was, yeah.
Did you hear when the credentialing was called? Even at the end of the assembly, the State Assembly, the state chair said, oh, we have 135 or so delegates that didn't get proper credentials. Should we let them vote? Let's have a vote. Let's have a standing vote or a voice vote of that. Dave, what are you doing? You've grossly violated the procedures and tenets of election integrity and voting and bylaws. You can't do that. Let's just throw all the rules out the window. Let's have it mob rule. What are we doing here? Are we running a state party? Are we having credible, accurate, and verified elections that are going to stand the litmus test of possible judicial scrutiny? Here we are yesterday in the state capitol having a hearing on the impeachment of Jenna Griswold for undue influence in trying to block a candidate from running. Well, Colorado, aren't we doing the same thing, but just in a different fashion when we try to promote these type of resolutions?
Richard,
are we being fair, impartial? What are we doing?
Richard,
Jeff, tell me what we're doing.
Well, we're talking to you, Richard Holtorf, state rep and candidate for congressman in Congressional District 4. Who'd be a good chairman of the state party?
Well, I tell you what, I'd be a hell of a lot better chair than we've got right now. And I've had about 25 people tell me. But I'm not running for that office. I'm running for Congressional District 4.
I've often said that the state party chair is the easiest to measure their success because they're like football coaches. You either win or you lose. If there's more Republicans in office, once you got there and you did the work, then the people will keep you around. If there's not enough, or if there's not more Republicans, we've lost seats, then people should hold you accountable. Isn't that where we should ultimately land with Dave Williams at the end of this? When the next time he's up, if there's more Republicans in office, then, we may not have liked Dave's processes. We may not have liked the people that necessarily won, but he got more Republicans in. I'm just gaming this out. Let's say in November, Dave delivers more Republicans into office. Should he be kept around?
Well, I think the measure is more than just the scoreboard. But arguably, we've been losing in Colorado.
Yeah.
We've been losing in Colorado, and a lot of that has been how we've run our state party. The old saying, well, state party isn't going to get you elected. As a candidate, I've heard that for many, many years. Isn't that a sad testament? As a candidate, when you come up and people on the street, and when you go to candidate seminars and you talk to your consultants, they say, state party's not going to get you elected because they don't have their stuff together. So that's a testament to something that says, state party's not getting it done. You're pretty much on your own with your own campaign and your own campaign team. And there's a lot of truth to that. So you can't just look at the scoreboard and say, yep, keep him around. I think integrity, I think honesty, I think transparency, I think good leadership. I think honest and fair leadership is important. But yes, the scoreboard does matter. Now, Dave is riding this Trump train. 2016, we had a hell of a Trump train. And I'm a Trump supporter. Okay. I've got Trump signs all over my pastures out there in eastern Colorado, on my cattle wagons that I've hauled cattle with. And I like everything that Trump has done. But let me tell you something. Colorado is not a Trump state. Dave Williams and Colorado, you might want to think about that as we want to try to pedal the Trump train all the way to the top of Pikes Peak.
That's a good point.
Colorado is a different state. We have to measure Colorado for what Colorado is and work towards addressing the issues of Colorado with the delegate and the electorate, including, by the way, 50-some% unaffiliated. So don't marginalize and box out these other people because you want to get the Trump slate. Because the Trump slate may not be the winning ticket in Colorado. Who has had those strategic conversations, folks?
Yeah, and
I'm having them right now on the air.
Richard Holtorf joining Jeff and Bill. Richard has called for the removal of Dave Williams from the Colorado GOP party chair. I want to follow up on that scoreboard conversation a little bit and kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate. And the idea being, the scoreboard, that's more than just the scoreboard matters. But if you've got a team that is running into the playoffs and the coach, do you change them running into the playoffs? What I'm looking for is there more danger of upheaval and chaos by replacing Dave Williams than the positives of getting someone in that will be more, I'd say nonpartisan. That's the wrong word for it, but be more of just a fair coach and a fair referee.
Say fair and balanced.
There we go. Yeah, but that's a Fox thing. So I think we have to pay some money to them. So is there any danger of changing the coach now? Could it, in theory, possibly create more chaos than solving the chaos?
Well, gentlemen, here is the issue. Colorado in this 2024 election cycle, if you haven't noticed, is already in chaos.
You don't say.
Okay. We are in a very, very shaken, not stirred situation here. Now, that's caused by many, many variables. The Democrats have a play in this because, they're oppo and they're behind the scenes doing everything they can. Once again, going back to why we need to have a closed primary and Republicans need to be electing Republicans in the primary. I 100% believe that. Now what's going to happen is, based on the direction we're going, we're going to have to, Colorado Republicans are going to have to set conditions and change the way we do things for 2026 that allows for everybody only to go through the assembly process, it looks like, and then only Republicans will be voting in the Republican primary in June of 2026. I argue that's a good thing. That's Bonnewell amendment. That's Mr. Bonnewell's theory, and it's shared and embraced by many, many Republicans. How we get to that place, we're taking that journey right now. But for me in 2024, I do not like the precedents, and I'm calling Dave out because no one else will. You know how many people have been grumbling and saying things to me? Dozens of people are shaking their head and saying, what is going on? But you know what? There's one Colorado cowboy. There's one Eastern Colorado statesman who's going to stand up. I'm not an establishment guy. I'm an anti-establishment guy because I have watched the establishment and the old guard, help us lose for the last 15 or 20 years. So we do need changes. We need a new, fresh look. This probably should have happened last fall, but nobody had the backbone to stand up and say, time out, Dave. We've had people that have stepped down from the state executive committee in protest. I've had people on the state executive committee say, Dave doesn't listen. It's Dave's way or the highway, and he will bully or shame you if you don't get in line with him. Well, isn't that what the Democrats do? I've watched that for half a decade up here. Shame, bully, coerce. And oh, by the way, Colorado, they change the rules when they don't like them to make them fit themselves and their own objectives and aims. Well, that's where I throw down that red flag. And I've thrown it down. Irregardless of anything, Dave, I'm putting you on notice. You need to straighten up, and you need to get in line and be a leader for all the Republicans in Colorado. Get off this power pulpit. This isn't a papacy, guys. We don't all go kiss the ring and bend the knee and genuflect in front of State Party or Dave, because that's where I see us going.
Richard Holtorf,
very bad direction.
Republican state rep from the Eastern Plains, also candidate for Congressional District 4.
Yeah, maybe
Richard,
next time
I
when Richard
appreciate
comes
you
on,
being
he'll tell us
on.
how you really feel.
Yeah, right. We've got
He holds back all the time.
Dave Williams is going to respond on Friday. He'll be on the program on Friday to give us a response.
Yeah,
so, Richard, thanks for being straightforward.
Thanks
for being direct. Thanks for taking all of our questions. We appreciate you being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Well, if you want a straight shooter, walk straight, talk straight, spit straight, shoot straight, you're talking to the guy that does that every time. I can't say that about everybody else. A lot of people don't want to say what needs to be said. They whisper, they talk behind closed doors. But, Colorado needs to know I'm exposing so many things, and I'm going to continue on this campaign trail because sunlight is the best disinfectant, transparency in everything and all things, and plurality and impartiality and fairness is so important in our political process.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
There's been dirty pool being played in all kinds of places.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. Hey, we all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. All right, phone line's starting to fill up. Bill's already on the phones with him. Carol, we'll get to you in just a second. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it right that Richard Holtorf calls a fellow Republican, someone he served with, for their resignation as chairman of the GOP? Is he angry and frustrated that he's a candidate in the same race that the state GOP endorsed another candidate? And that's really what this all is all about? Why shouldn't Richard just wait until that seat's up for re-election and push somebody at that point? Or has what Dave Williams done so bad that we need to change the head coach now just before the election to get things right. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Carol and Brian, you're up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. The US is considering easing advisories against its citizens traveling to China in a sign that relations have stabilized further. But American Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell warned that Chinese support for Russia's war in Ukraine puts that at risk. Laura Westbrook has more from Hong Kong.
Kurt Campbell acknowledged US warnings had impacted exchanges between American and Chinese people. He said communication had normalized between Washington and Beijing in recent months. This comes after a meeting between the country's two leaders last year. On easing advisories, he said this was under active consideration. The US State Department has issued a warning cautioning Americans traveling to China, saying they could risk exit bans or wrongful detention.
A teenager in Idaho has been arrested for preparing to attack multiple churches with guns, knives, and explosives after pledging loyalty to Islamic State. The Justice Department said Alexander Mercurio planned to move from church to church until he was killed. The Attorney General revealed part of the plan, discovered by the FBI, would have required the 18-year-old to restrain his father to gain access to guns locked away at the family home. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Well, that was interesting, and I'm sure made some news. Representative Richard Holtorf joining us. Had some direct words to Dave Williams on his leadership of the state party and whether or not he should resign, calling him for to resign.
I know if we were Black Eyed Pea, that would have been a food fight.
On the
19th, we're going to be out of Black Eyed Pea doing breakfast.
That would have been one of those great westerns that would have spun out into the street, where they all fall out of the door and the windows. The random dude comes flying out the window.
Yes, exactly. Oh, yeah, he brought the fire. But hopefully everybody can join us, Black Eyed Pea, April 19th, next Friday. Brandon Tatum's in town. Come on out, say hi, get breakfast with us. They're opening up early. They normally don't do breakfast on that Friday. So their crowd from Black Eyed Pea is going to be out there spending special time with us, and we hope you come out and gawk and look at us doing the weirdness there.
And Bill and I have a running bet going, so you could help us here. We want to see who gets more people to show up in support of each other.
Exactly.
So
and why am I going to lose?
If the station has now turned into NPR and all of a sudden we've got a bunch of liberals, which according to our text message thread may be the case.
Sometimes
there's a lot of fans of Bill on that text message thread. Come show up and we're going to see. Are we as conservative talk as we used to be, or things changed a little bit? We got some new listeners.
Yeah, and come take pictures with us because you want to come and make silly pictures and take silly pictures of me. I'm all in. You want to show your friends some weird thing that you did to. I mean, again. That came out wrong. Okay. You want to show your friends a funny picture of you and I together and giving you, and again, I'm a professional wrestling fan. I will give you the shine. Trust me. You want a very unique picture about how much you hate me or how much you dislike me? Come, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll make it worth your while. If you want to do one where you like me, you want to sit down, I'll lean into that too. I will give you some of the best
long as
pictures
there's a dollar paid in every. He doesn't care.
No,
right?
I do not care. I am happy to make fun of myself, and I will happily do it with you if you show up with us on 19th at Black Eyed Pea in Castle Rock. Please do.
So that's next Friday. All details at 710knus.com. 710knus.com. Bill Thorpe, Jeff Hunt, Brandon Tatum, Black Eyed Pea, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in Castle Rock. Let's go to Carol in Denver. Carol, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Well, good morning. I was listening to Representative Holtorf, and I can second his emotion.
Do you? Why is that?
Yeah, because I'm actually from Aurora, and I was at the assembly on Saturday, and I was sitting with Arapahoe County Republicans down on the floor during the time we had the awkward moments of having a standing vote for each of the resolutions. There was one resolution, and it may have been about Resolution 7, and it had to do with election integrity, that I remember reading through it when we were at county, and we all had a chance to vote for or against each of these resolutions, and I did not vote for it then. But that was on a ballot, and I knew somebody was going to count these and decide which ones had the most support to advance them to state and then to RNC. As a district captain running my party, I encourage other precinct leaders and other active Republicans to be aware of a significant part of our caucus process is presenting these resolutions.
Right.
Well, anyhow, after several of these, he had gotten to the point of just being in the habit of letting all the ayes stand, and when they sit down, any of the nays stand. He says, "Oh, seeing no takers." I stood alone. I stood alone because I opposed one, and I suspect there are other people who didn't totally like the wording of every one of these resolutions. But what he was doing that is counter to our culture in this conservative party, the party I choose to be part of because it's most conservative, is he was encouraging us to go along to get along. I got a lot of dirty looks from people around me and questioning looks for standing alone, opposing anything, because if I dared.
Carol, are you calling for Dave Williams' resignation as well? Do you join Holtorf in that?
I don't know if he needs to resign, but at least people don't let him bully you, and don't let him fool you that he's the united, just know him for who he is. That, have you ever read one of his letters he sends out to everybody? It's 4 pages long about I'm unifying. I took a red pen like an English teacher, and I underlined all the divisive words he put in there. So just be aware of who he is. I don't know that he needs to resign, but, let's just at least call him out for what he's doing and what's not appropriate and what is appropriate.
Carol, the conversation we had with Richard Holtorf, I made the comparison to a football head coach. Ultimately judged at the end of the day by the wins or losses. If Colorado has more elected Republicans in because of his leadership, would you support him at that point?
No, excuse me. I don't know. I would support him for another term, and no, I would not support him. I don't know that I supported him much in the first place, because I don't support his tactics.
Okay, Carol,
even if they seem to be successful. Yeah,
I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We've got a whole lot of callers here, so we're going to get through them. Carol from Denver, her line will be open 303-696-1971. Brian in Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. This is the first time I ever heard Holtorf's tough talk, and it sounded to me like he's got a lot of anger towards Dave, and that came out more than anything that he said. I get it. Some of the procedures were done differently, and that might anger some people in the party, and making changes that are irregular. And I understand that, but where I'm coming from is it's time to get something done. Yeah. And, for 10 years, we've been losing, and I'm unaffiliated now. After they torpedoed Tancredo, I left the Republican Party in Colorado, but I still vote Republican now because I'm looking at the Dems, and it's like they're going off the cliff. They're taking us off a cliff. And so what's the problem with the GOP? It's always been is we try to court the unaffiliateds, like me and other people, and then you lose the base. Or you court the base and you lose the unaffiliated. And that's the fine needle that you have to thread in Colorado, and nobody can do it. So our parties constantly divided, and the Democrats don't have to do anything because they run a tight ship where they're lockstep no matter what. Yeah. And they coerce and they threaten and they have backdoor handshakes with their members to get them to do what they want. And now Dave Williams is trying to, I don't think he's trying to act that way, but he's trying to say, look, playing nice doesn't work anymore. KBB and Priscilla Ron played nice. I like them. I liked their message. They were weak on the ground game. They were weak on the messaging game. They were weak on courting unaffiliated. They alienated the base. And look what happened. We got destroyed. Republicans got destroyed last election. And now we have Dave Williams maybe not doing things the same way that they were done before, like Dick what not to do Wadhams wants to tell us what not to do all the time. He's trying to figure out what to do. And so I'm going to give Dave the benefit of the doubt until the election, because he got elected as a coach, like you said, to do a job. And so if you don't like the way he does, again, we're against the Dems. We're not against each other. It's seriously time for people to go lockstep and work with this guy, whether you like it or not. We did it for you for 10 years, Dick, what not to do, and KBB and Priscilla Ron. We did it for you. Now you guys don't want to do it for the guy putting his neck on the line. I get he's done some more unorthodox things. I don't agree with all of them, but we got to get something done.
Brian, appreciate the call. Brian from Arvada. Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggested you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases based on a percentage fee, so he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankapleslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. Joan, you'll be up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Lots of good text messages coming in. We just posted Richard Holtorf on whether or not Dave Williams should resign for his activities at the state assembly and not being impartial when it comes to these primaries, Republican primaries. Here's a text message, 2323. This November, what is the metric we will use to determine if Williams' conduct was successful? I think it's generally pretty straightforward.
Probably winning.
There are more Republicans or fewer Republicans in office.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that Brian, our last caller, made a really good point. While I agree with Richard that maybe all the stuff that Dave did isn't necessarily, in my opinion, above board, that should you wait to see what the score is on the scoreboard before deciding to change the coach?
Yep.
Give him. I don't know. It's hard.
He's definitely changed the way the party operates. So
yeah,
that's not wrong. We'll continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
$9 a.m. and the show is kicking.
Yeah.
You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt.
Yeah.
Along with Bill Thorpe.
Yeah, I'm Bill Thorpe. And as your hobbyists, radio professionals, we recommend that you listen to Jeff and Bill for at least 3 hours every day, normally accompanied by heavy liquor. It makes it easier.
That'll help you.
Makes it a lot
Depends
more fun.
on who you feel is winning the debate.
Exactly.
We're one of the rare shows, probably the rare show in Colorado where you have a more independent, conservative-leaning take. If you go to any other stations, you'll get the news or just straight monologues. But here you get conversations.
Yeah, it's conversation. It's not ideology. And again, I have
pretty
been told,
ideological, though.
We are, but it's not the idea of dogma. It's not the idea of just spitting dogma at you and saying we want to actually hear what everybody else says and understand that there are times in which maybe we don't have the correct perspective, me more than you. And I have been told by many people that while I do not drive them to drink, I do force them to ask the directions as to how to get there. So I get it. So I appreciate each and every one of you for listening and participating in the text messages. Thank you for participating.
Speaking of the conversation, let's continue. We're having the conversation. Richard Holtorf last night calling for the chairman of the GOP here in Colorado to resign. He's frustrated about some activities that took place at the assembly on Saturday, the way votes were being held. But then the fact that the state party, which traditionally-ish has been pretty neutral in primaries, is weighing in, endorsing people like Lauren Boebert, endorsing Donald Trump, getting active and using resources to promote his own candidacy, Dave Williams in CD5. Is that right, or is that fair? We're getting calls and texts kind of all over the place. Yeah. Some people going, look, let's see how he does in November. That's how we judge him. That's how there's either more Republicans in office or less Republicans in office. Others going, no, we want the kind of traditionally fair, balanced approach to primaries. We don't like the Republican Party weighing in.
Now, we were talking about the idea of coach, and we talked about that coach filter. Do you change the coach in the middle?
Yep.
And I just popped in my head, maybe a better conversation is, does the party chair function as a coach or a referee?
Yeah.
Are they supposed to be an advocate? Or are they supposed to be neutral? What is their role? I think that might be an interesting conversation.
And my experience is that no state party chair has ever been completely neutral when picking the team he wants to go onto the field with.
And if you're watching the NBA, no NBA referees.
Right.
Partial, but I'm just saying.
They haven't been nearly on the nose that Dave Williams has. I mean, sending out emails, texting, but behind the scenes, if they felt somebody was going to really bring down their chances of winning, they kind of nudged them out of the way a little bit. So,
what was it in Arizona? They removed the party chair because he was offering Kerry Lake some
money,
cash to not run. So, that does happen. Not here, luckily, but it does happen. You're right.
I'm willing to take cash not to run.
Yes.
Text the line. I'll be willing to take that cash.
I will take cash to run.
If
you want me off the air here, give me cash. I'll run for something.
Man, it feels more like you'd have to pay me to run. Yeah. Let's go to Joan in Broomfield. Joan, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning. I want to ask your listeners to get a pencil and paper, okay?
Oh, there's
what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
So first of all, if you go to libertyscorecard.co.us, you'll find the record of Dave Williams. Okay. You have to go to 2022 to get that record, which was a 95.3%. Okay. And so then you can go to the same website, libertyscorecard.us, and look up Holtorf. And his record is something like 58 to 68%. Okay. So already Dave Williams has already proven himself a leader. And who the chairman of the state GOP party is supposed to lead the Democrats. Lead the Republicans to victory. Okay. So we know that Holtorf has already bent the knee to the Democrat Party, getting a low scorecard at libertyscorecard.us. Okay. And Dave Williams has represented our party platform. I was present on Saturday. I'm a delegate. I'm a district captain. I work hardy-tardy, going door to door. And I was there at the meeting last night where Holtorf starts out by saying we have to unite as a party and let our petty differences go. And then he lifts this bomb. Okay, so the bottom line is Brian said it better than I'm going to be able to say it. But if you also go search for Kent Thiry, KentThiry, and you will see that he's the man who started with this open primary stuff. And by the way, Holtorf also voted for an open primary at a very critical election. Okay, so he's not saying he's not walking his walk. Okay, he's tearing the party apart. We had an outstanding meeting on Saturday, and all Holtorf wants to do is tear it apart because he's not going to win CD4 that he's run for, or that he's running for, and he's not going to win. We want winners. We've got to take back Colorado, and Dave Williams needs to stay in office because it's just deteriorates everything if a strong leader leaves. Okay, that's basically what I called in to say.
Joan, thanks so much. Oh, we've got a bad connection with Joan. I'd like to have a conversation with Joan because the question I would ask her is it right for the state party to be that on the nose in primaries the way that they have been? Is it right? I get that she likes Dave Williams. The energy I saw down there on Saturday was that a lot of people supported Dave. They were Dave's people. They were Dave's people. They were Lauren Boebert's people. They were Donald Trump's people. And in fact, Donald Trump tweeted about Dave Williams and his leadership recently. Let's see if I can pull that up here. But basically applauding him. Here's Donald Trump on Truth Social yesterday.
What did he say?
The chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, Dave Williams, who also, fortunately for the people of Colorado, happens to be running for Congress, is under fake news assault because he is doing such a strong job as an advocate for MAGA. Also, and very importantly, due to the efforts of Dave and so many others, we are going to win Colorado. The people will not stand for the charade played where the Democrats tried and failed to take me and the vote of millions of Americans out of the election. Colorado MAGA.
That's interesting.
New term, Colorado MAGA.
That's interesting. And okay, let's explore that just for a second. One, I find it interesting, Donald Trump talks about the winning and what happens if it doesn't. But I think more importantly is Trump leaning into the MAGA brand.
Yep.
And I want to go back to our conversation last hour. If you missed it, check it out on the podcast. Richard Holtorf brings the fire. He does not hold back about the problems and difficulties he sees with Dave Williams' leadership in the GOP party. One of the allegations he has is the MAGA support. Holtorf's critique is, even though Richard is a huge Donald Trump supporter, going to vote for Donald Trump, did vote for Donald Trump, has Donald Trump signs all over his farm, even though he likes Trump, he feels the MAGA brand is questionable inside of Colorado to appeal to larger electorate. Is Holtorf correct or is Trump correct? What's the best marketing and messaging? And you've got the strategy.
So the brand discussion is unique because Donald Trump performed better than Mitt Romney did in 2016.
Better as far as percentage or better as far as the numbers?
I want to say percentage. I think Donald Trump performed better in 2016 than Mitt Romney did in 2012, and then he got walloped in 2020. So it's not like a clear cut, like, oh, if we just ran a Mitt Romney, we would do better.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
And the only thing I would put in the Romney conversation is that's also the pot ballot. And so I think potheads changed that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
appreciate you.
Yeah, I think they changed that percentages. But I think you've got a point there that the traditional, what you'd consider more country club conservative, didn't do well. And Trump did better. But then he got his lunch taken from him.
So where he did better was different as well.
Yeah.
So, if I remember correctly, Trump did not do as well in Douglas County, but did better in Pueblo than Romney did. So it's not clear cut in the state of Colorado, but other than the fact that we Republicans have been losing it bigger and bigger, and we lost bigger in 20. And I've always felt like if you're the state party chair, your job's generally just pretty straightforward. And KBB did this to her credit. She just went, look, I couldn't deliver in 2020. It's now somebody else's turn. And there was not a big fight over that type of thing.
Now, let's say this. Let's just game plan, because I find it interesting that the issue is to lean into the MAGA brand. And I do think, being the unaffiliated on the show, again, not neutral, just unaffiliated. I don't belong to either party because I'd burn them to the ground if I could. But it's a dream I have. But the other thing is I agree that the MAGA brand is difficult. It's a difficult sell to many unaffiliateds because in some, that MAGA brand is why they became unaffiliated to begin with. But I also see the other side of it, that maybe you wait and see what the scoreboard is at the end of the game. The question I have is, let's pretend now if Dave leads everybody to victory, then it's all hugs and kisses and everything's forgiven.
Right.
What happens if he doesn't?
Right.
If we're in the exact same situation or even fewer representation, will everybody that is saying we need to give Dave a shot, we need to let him run his race, will they then turn around and say, well, he got his shot, now we need to remove him, and that calls into question things like the MAGA brand.
I'm going to throw a wrench in all this.
Ooh, good. I appreciate that.
What if he's the chairman of the GOP and loses his primary in June?
Ooh, that's interesting.
So Jeff Crank, Bob Gardner,
honestly, I hadn't even thought of that.
Dave
really
Williams running in CD5.
Man.
He can't deliver for a primary victory.
Wow. That's weird.
Do you trust him to deliver a victory in November by then?
Here's the other part is I hadn't even thought about that in the primary victory, because that is, that's such a weird layer. You really threw this wrench in there because I love you. This is great. Man, I would hug you if we could right now. Get the glass in front of us. I love it because the question that starts popping up in my mind is he and can he be a neutral party if he loses that primary
and support Jeff Crank and get behind those guys?
Even not just Crank, but other possible races. Does he feel in some way that maybe, well, you people, and I'm using this as a pejorative. I'm using this just as pejorative, and this is not how Dave talks. I'm just doing this for character and just for effect. That you people that I'm leading to glory couldn't choose me to be the best candidate. So am I going to really be able to support the rest of you unwashed masses in all the votes across the state? Again, I'm pretending. It's not how Dave acts. But the question being that if he does lose that primary, does he lose the fire and just basically say, wash my hands? Okay, guys, good luck. Let's see how you do it.
Is he willing to put down and really fight hard? Because that's the only job you really have to do as chairman. This is why
that's really
you do have the complexity with Ken Buck. Was he that successful of a chairman when he was also running for Congress? Is it just too much? I've often even daydreamed what it would like to be the chairmen of the GOP, and the reason I haven't pursued that.
Hobby. So you get something. Hobby. I mean, puzzles or something.
The reason I want to pursue that is when I worked with Ryan Call, the dude was everywhere, every night in some other part of the state. It's the same reason I'm not going to run for Congress. I'm not leaving my family behind like that.
Yep, exactly.
And if you're running for Congress in a particular district and serving as chairman, big questions. Well, Dave's going to join us Friday, so we'll get the answers from him. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Billy. 49 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 60 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Get down off them horses. I don't favor looking up to the likes of you.
State Representative and CD4 candidate Richard Holtorf not happy with head of the GOP Dave Williams. He says he's creating dangerous precedents and wants him to resign.
You can't call for a vote until all delegates have been 100% properly credentialed. That's called voter identification. That's the first problem. The next problem is we did a standing vote in that assembly of everybody who were delegate, who were alternate, who were guests, who were media, who was standing, who was sitting. That's another problem. Nobody knew because we hadn't fully credentialed all of the delegates. Dave Williams, the procedures and mechanics matter.
Holtorf says the GOP has been losing in Colorado and leadership is one of the problems.
Had my back broke once, my hip twice. And on my worst day, I could beat the hell out of you.
Representative Ryan Armagost brought impeachment charges against Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, but it failed 8-3 on Tuesday. She wanted former President Trump off the state ballot, of course. The Supreme said no. Here's Armagost.
We had to keep redirecting to that point. Is Donald Trump is not on trial here. We are not on trial here. She is not on trial here. This is simply a hearing to see if it is appropriate for an impeachment of our Secretary of State under those circumstances, and how what she's accusing him of doing and affecting and destroying democracy, otherwise using his position to influence, how is it any different from what you are trying to do or have tried to do throughout your time as a Secretary of State? And she would not answer that question.
Armagost joined Jeff and Billy earlier in the morning. 29-year-old Kiara Jones has been fired by Littleton Public Schools after she was caught on video punching and stomping a nonverbal student with autism. She's also been arrested and charged with a felony count of third-degree assault against an at-risk person. She is bonded out. The 10-year-old named Dax has autism, and his mother spoke out Tuesday at a press conference.
Had bus footage been routinely audited, the torture and torment of my sweet boy could have been stopped.
The parents of two other children with autism spoke out as well. All of the parents have been asking for an investigation for months, but they say the district would not listen. In Parker, 78-year-old Angel Beaker was found beaten with a hammer, and the 73-year-old husband, James Beaker, is in custody, accused of the brutal killing of his wife. He's held on a first-degree murder charge. It happened on April 4th.
This is a situation where there's both right-of-way infringement, there are health and safety risks, and the size of the encampment is too large for us to result to housing.
Denver and Decay Mayor Mike Johnston, he talked to people from West Denver in their neighborhood. They're sick of the encampment near 8th and Navajo, tired of the smell of human waste and witnessing drug and violence at this encampment site. The city says it will be cleared hopefully by next Tuesday. 39 in Arvada, 40 in Lone Tree, 43 in Denver.
Watch out! Here comes McKinnon! Score!
Nathan McKinnon with his 7th career hat trick. Avs 5-2 win over the Wild. Don't forget, DU takes on Boston U tomorrow in the Frozen Four. Nuggets beat the Jazz, and the Rockies lose to the D-backs 3-2. It's Hump Day. Jeff and Billy, 9 o'clock hour continues. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies, temperatures upper 50s and low 60s today, mid to upper 30s tonight. Highs will be 55 to 60 tomorrow. Now, today and tonight should be dry. There's a small chance of an isolated rain shower, isolated thunderstorm Wednesday afternoon. Fair and chilly, low 30s Wednesday night. Sunny, low to mid 60s on Thursday, 30s and 40s Thursday night, then warming well into the 70s for Friday through Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day on 710 KNUS. The 710 5-day forecast, partly cloudy skies.
We're going to have a lot of fun next Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. Believe me, we know how to throw a party.
Yeah, we do. I'm a lot of fun in public sometimes. I'm not always appropriate, but I am fun.
Friday, April 19th, we're going to be down at the Black Eyed Pea from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for a live broadcast with Brandon Tatum. Officer Brandon Tatum. You hear him every afternoon on this show. On this station. Great guy. I hosted him at the Western Conservative Summit. He's a lot of fun as well. So look, I know if you're a conservative in Colorado, it's not a fun time, but at least you can come have some delicious food at the Black Eyed Pea. Hang out with us. We'll poke fun at the libs and have a fun morning.
Yeah, and come on out. We will do pictures. Jeff is going to do normal pictures. I'm willing to play along. You want to get funny pictures? Come on. I'm a professional wrestling fan. If you want to have a picture that you can share with friends and family and share on the gram and do stuff like that, I'm your dude. We'll do something for you. Come in, say hi, and we will do some crazy stuff because I have a very high threshold for public embarrassment. So let's come test that.
Let's test that. It'll be great.
Love to.
Look, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home Team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Their exclusive database is filled. Over 14,000 pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Be sure to give them a call at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. All right. Did you see this story about the guy from NPR?
Oh,
25 years.
And he still works there.
He still works there.
That's kind of crazy.
I've been at NPR for 25 years. Here's how we lost America's trust. He details kind of how generally the newsroom looked like America. It was some conservatives, some independents, some liberals, but he argues that a few things changed the way they reported news. First being the George Floyd incident and the rise of DEI and critical race theory within the newsroom, and starting to really judge stories out of that visual, out of that worldview, that there's systemic racism in this country. We need to address it. We need to use our stories to address it, and kind of how that infiltrated NPR. But then also Donald Trump. Like many unfortunate things, the rise of advocacy took off with Donald Trump. As in many newsrooms, his election in 2016 was greeted at NPR with a mixture of disbelief, anger, and despair. Persistent rumors that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia over the election became the catnip that drove reporting. At NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff, and then listed the fact that they interviewed him 25 times.
Yeah, Schiff was a problem there. Huge problem.
But when the Mueller report found no credible evidence of collusion, NPR's coverage was notably sparse.
Yeah. Now
Russiagate quietly faded from our programming.
There's one where he's a reporter and he knows this, and I disagree with him on this.
Yeah.
And I disagree with so many. We've had lots of text conversations, and I've had those on the phones as well, because when they talk about the Russia collusion hoax, that is a misrepresentation of the facts. Robert Mueller found there was no criminal collusion, but he did find information sharing and coordination between Russian intelligence and the Trump campaign. Paul Manafort, post-pardon in public, said he was taking money from Russian intelligence to pass campaign information from Trump's operation to Russian intelligence. So I disagree with the idea of being a hoax. Not criminal. I can agree with that. Not criminal collusion.
Yeah.
But it is not correct to say that it's the hoax.
But the point that he's trying to get to is that in this, NPR became more advocacy journalism.
Yes, and he's correct.
Than honest journalism, and they're paying the price for it.
And he's got another one that he does here in about a paragraph or so. But the only thing I'm pointing out is that he's worried about accuracy and fairness and correctness.
Yeah.
And then he comes to an incorrect conclusion in how he presents it. And that's all I'm pointing out.
You said criminal collusion, but
again, he talks about it being a
right.
hoax. And that's the issue that I've got. And again, but he's absolutely right about Adam Schiff, because Adam Schiff was a dishonest actor in this entire narrative. Adam Schiff came to the table with a pile of BS and has been proven to be so much BS. The Steele dossier, BS. Mueller report doesn't rely on Steele dossier. And there's some other things, but yeah.
And then he gets into NPR's COVID coverage, most notably in reporting the origin of the pandemic. Talked about how originally there were two teams within NPR, Team Natural Origin and then Team Lab Leak.
But
the lab leak theory came in for rough treatment almost immediately dismissed as racist or right-wing conspiracy theory. Anthony Fauci and the former NIH head Francis Collins, representing the public health establishment, were its most notable critics, and that was enough for NPR. We became fervent members of Team Natural Origin, even declaring that the lab leak had been debunked by scientists, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because, again, I was neck deep in that as well, and had to do some retrofitting of my conclusions, had to go back and re-examine things that I thought were true and had to get more closer to the lab leak theory. I was on Team Natural Origin, but I believe that the reporter also then presents it a little bit incorrectly. And the only reason being is just from my own experience, I had to go back and re-examine conclusions that I had come to and realizing that some of them were wrong and had to correct myself and go, okay, no. And then, as you should, ask yourself why. Right. And I believe that the reason that the lab leak theory created so much derision at the beginning is because it wasn't just a lab leak theory. That was the first part of it. It was always a lab leak theory because this is a Chinese bioweapon designed to bring down the U.S. That was the entire narrative around the lab leak. And that's where I think it fell apart. And that's where I believe a lot of people then pushed back on it, because there were a lot of people that said, hey, it could be lab, because China is trying to do this and this and this to us. So I think that's where the negativity happens.
These specifics are important. What was interesting to me in this whole story, though, was I used to listen to NPR a lot. I liked it, primarily in my 30s. We would do the Wait, Don't Tell Them game show. And don't abandon me on this, I was a donor to Colorado Public Radio. I enjoyed it. And what caught me in this story...
Wait, Don't Tell Me is fantastic.
I haven't listened to NPR in years.
Really? Wow.
And it didn't dawn on me.
Yeah.
I just stopped listening. And I think at one point it was probably a story or two or just the feeling of it. Yeah. And his whole critique, especially towards the end of this, is we've really only become a station for the coastal college towns.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's absolutely right with the coloring of some of the journalism and how it became much more advocacy journalism. Yes. And I have some real issues with NPR during the Trump years because, and I have this with some other outlets as well, but specifically NPR let me down because like you, I have a strong connection growing up in Colorado and listening to it for years. Despite my parents being absolutely hardcore Republicans, my dad always said, you have to listen to NPR because it's the best journalism that's out there at this point. And he said they sometimes have, stories that are colored, but listen to some of the good stuff they do that nobody else does. And rather than presenting an unfiltered story about Trump, it was as if they had to try to be the balance of what they thought was happening on Fox News and Newsmax and those things, that it had to be counter programming. And the argument I have is it didn't need to be. If you truly believe that Donald Trump was that bad of a person and a president, straight journalism tells the story.
We'll cover it.
You don't have to color it at all. And they really let me down. And he later in his article, and I'll get to it again, he points out something that specifically, when I got to it, I'm like, oh my God, he's hearing it too. And it's something contemporaneous that's happening right now.
I want to hear that. Yeah. All right. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Listen to some of the overjoyed customers. We are so happy with our kitchen that we're now planning to do our bathroom as well. The shelves are very sturdy and made better than most I've seen. Very, very happy customer. We hosted them out to do measurements in our kitchen. We're in a smaller kitchen in our ranch house, and they were able to find more space for us than we would have originally had. So very looking forward to having them, very excited to have them install over at the Hunt House. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today. You'll love having Joyce and Brent over. 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Rollemoutshelves.com. Here's a text message. You see this, Bill?
No one.
I used to wake up to NPR, but when Trump was elected and the morning host kept whining about it, I couldn't listen anymore. 710 works better with the way I lean. I like you guys better.
That's great.
That's very nice.
That's very nice.
5285. I appreciate
Also,
that.
I think your radio might be broken. Just saying. You can't change the channel.
How about this one? Team Lab Leak is the worst ever trivia team name.
I am going to steal that. I am stealing that. Oh, I'm going to so steal that one.
Give us a call because I think this gets into a larger issue. This has been actually my critique of Channel 9. Very similar to this, where I think they went and said, we have a bigger mission with our job than just straight journalism.
Yeah.
We need to solve some of our community's problems.
Oh, yeah.
We're here to make a change. And when they did that, they put themselves, and I think this goes back to probably what happened at journalism school, where you are going to be a members of the elite. You have a duty to try to change things and make the world a better place. And it was under that initial kind of innocent banner that you then have to start picking sides if you feel that either a political leader or a movement or people are bad. And so you have not just a responsibility to tell the story, but a responsibility to try to change things themselves. And people just lose trust.
Yeah. And
because if I wanted advocacy, you'd go
find an advocate.
I'd go find an advocate. That's right.
Exactly. And again, I yell all the time about how we have lost our way in journalism. And years and years ago, I'm not a journalist now. I don't pretend to be. But years and years ago, I was trained to be one. And it is not your position to advocate. It's your position to tell what's going on. Yep. It's Richard Holtorf earlier talked about the idea of bringing daylight and how, you can disinfect and how it that's basically what it was, is the journalist was supposed to be the daylight, not to say, hey guys, I feel we should be doing this. It's just, this is what's happening so that you can make the decision. And we've gotten to way too much to advocacy journalism, and almost everybody does it anymore. It's ridiculous. I got to talk to the phone.
I am definitely not a journalist. All right, we'll get to Robert and Nick here in just a second. Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair will grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Visit advancedhair.com or give them a call, 720-459-HAIR. That's advancedhair.com. Robert, Nick, you're up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. In a bombshell ruling, Arizona's Supreme Court has reinstated a 160-year-old law banning nearly all abortions, a law that took effect before women had the right to vote and before Arizona even became a state. Tony Waterman has more.
The justices, all appointed by Republicans, ruled that the 1864 abortion ban supersedes a 15-week ban that came into effect after Roe v. Wade was overturned. The ruling will take effect in 14 days, and doctors who perform the procedure could face up to 5 years in jail. But it's unclear how the law will be enforced, since the state attorney general has vowed not to prosecute any cases. This decision, though, could impact November's elections. Arizona is a major battleground state, and polling shows that nationwide, abortion is a top issue. So this may motivate voters to the ballot box come November.
A teenager in Idaho has been arrested for preparing to attack multiple churches with guns, knives and explosives after pledging loyalty to Islamic State. The Justice Department said Alexander Mercurio planned to move from church to church until he was killed. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
Going to be a high of 58 today. A few showers out It gets warmer Thursday. Really nice Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Finally! Warm weather in Colorado. Oh, I've been waiting for this.
Oh, it's nice.
Talking to this article, I've been at NPR for 25 years. Here's how we lost America's trust. You know, one of the things that I found interesting, Bill, was how he, towards the end of the article, he's like, but we still really need government funding. No, don't get rid of that. One of our texters pointing out that NPR is the government. They all thought they were special because they never had to find any ad money.
Well, the thing is that I know people that work nationally and also locally inside the NPR world. A little weird, great people. They do
weird.
It's a little weird just because it's a different dynamic, and it's they do have advertising. They have to go out and get advertising. And the vast majority of their programming dollars actually come from listener donations, not from the government. And they also have advertising, but it's the subsidies, the underwriters. And so you have those little lines, this is a proud portion of, and we support, have those type of things.
The Chase Foundation.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. However, the people that I know that are sellers over there, they say the job is so much easier. They say it's just basically because
grant applications.
Yeah, well, it's basically it's you take a potential sponsor to lunch and you have nice conversations about how wonderful NPR is, and so they say it's a really easy sell more times than not, because if they're willing to go to lunch with you, they probably
it's not
already
product. Like we have to prove to our advertisers that we actually are going to be a good investment.
Yeah, exactly. Where if they're going to lunch with you, they've already partially written the check in their head, so that's a little bit easier.
Let's go to Robert in Littleton. Robert, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Hey, fellas. The gentleman that wrote the NPR article, he makes some good points, and I won't dispute those, but he seems to keep tracking what I'll refer to as the demise of journalism back to the start of the Trump era. And I think that's a critical mistake, because if we look back 8, 12, 16, even 20 years earlier, that was already beginning. I remember very clearly during the Clinton administration, when Clinton had his various troubles because he couldn't keep it in his pants.
Yep.
It was like the mission of, give or take, half of the journalists to either abjectly ignore what was going on, or to make excuses for it, or to kind of echo the Clinton White House's line on it, and then we go into the Bush years, very much the same thing, but in reverse, where everything George Bush did was wrong, stupid, evil, this, that, and the other, until 9/11. And then everybody wanted to be the government parrot, about weapons of mass destruction and et cetera, et cetera. And then we fast forward to the start of the Obama years, and it was an abject failure on the part of most journalists to do any vetting or investigation of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And when things like his association with Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, et cetera, or the Jeremiah Wright stuff in the church, stuff like that. When those came up, it was almost inevitable that you were going to hear most of the mainstream talking heads say, "Oh, well, he was young, and he was just feeling his oats or exploring his roots, and this, that, and the other." And when legitimate questions, there was a lot of garbage that was spread about Obama. Don't get me wrong, a lot of garbage that had no foundation in truth. But when legitimate questions came up, they didn't want to ask them, and they sure as hell didn't want to answer them.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I like the idea that the just for a second here, the Reverend Wright stuff. I like that because I see that parroted in a different way with Donald Trump, and the issue being some people will excuse Barack Obama's going to a church with Reverend Wright, but will turn around and say, but Donald Trump had dinner or associated with these people that are connected to white supremacists. And it's the same type of filter. Yeah, continue. I see that. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and for me, look, I'm not a journalist, and I don't play one on TV, and I didn't say it Holiday Inn Express last night either. But I did take a journalism class in high school, and what we were taught was the job of a journalist is the who, what, when, where, how. Okay, or who, what, when, where, why. Excuse me. What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Who was involved? And if possible, why?
Yep.
And the why is not always an answerable thing, at least at the time, with the information that you have available to you. It is not your job to inject the opinion of your opinion or your belief into the story. It is simply to report the facts. And I think the other demise of journalism, if you will, is that there is virtually no line that exists between actual journalists that are trying to simply report what happened, with those who are opinion guys.
Oh,
and I got
good
no
point.
problem with opinion guys. Okay, the Hannitys of the world, the Dennis Briggs,
Jeff and
these are
Bills.
opinion guys.
Yeah.
The Jeff and Bills, they're opinion guys. But you're not pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys have both said I'm not a journalist.
Yep.
Okay, you're talking about the current events and giving your opinions on them, and that's fine. Same thing with the Rachel Maddows of the world. But don't tell me you're a journalist if you're just giving me your opinion about what happened.
Robert, I got a question for you. I think what's also going to change all this is the rise of self-broadcasting and people following particular journalists. So, for instance, Andy No on Twitter. He's got millions of followers. He's a good journalist. He dives into those things. I follow him. And people are like, outlets, not so much anymore. I'd like to follow the particular journalist. So I think you're going to see people move in that direction of following particular people and not just straight news outlets.
Yeah, and that worries me. And you know what, Robert, you know why that worries me? I'm sorry, Robert, continue. Yeah, answer Jeff, sorry.
But no, I was going to say, absolutely, I agree with you. And I think it worries me for the same reason that it worries you. We have an inclination to bury ourselves in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
To disregard and to shut out opinions or facts, for that matter, sometimes cold, hard facts, that don't align with whatever our paradigm happens to be. And when we start locking ourselves in and going, this guy or this set of guys and gals are the only ones that I'm going to follow because they're telling me what I want to hear, we become immunized to anything that disputes that or anything that gives us a different perspective.
That's really good. And I think, Robert, you may go back to, and thanks for the call, you may go back to your high school journalism class, that the role of the journalist isn't supposed to tell you what you want to hear. The role of the journalist is to tell you what you need to hear. And that's difficult because many times in our current media ecosystem, what you need to hear doesn't get the clicks, doesn't get the eyes, doesn't get the ears. And outrage does. Look at anything on social media, any sort of outrage.
It leads.
Yeah. But even then, bleeding, but the idea is it's a manufactured outrage. The idea that I am so upset over this and it becomes that advocacy. And that's what gets the attention. But that is the absolute, as Robert accurately pointed out, is the absolute antithesis of journalism. And so I think there's a negative feedback loop that we exist in sometimes.
Guys, generally we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with ED, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and on your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and provides a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, AT and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900. Or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
favorite breakfast item, Bill?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Come on.
If I had to, the go-to would be Eggs Benedict. How about you? What's yours?
Biscuits and gravy.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No.
With the little potatoes on the side.
Now, how do you like the gravy? Talk to me. I mean, does it have to be lumpy, thick? I mean, is it more?
Let me tell you about the Ed, which they don't have anymore.
The Ed.
Yeah, this was at the Gunsmoke Cafe in Buena Vista, Colorado, which is a truck stop up there.
Ooh, truck stop gravy. Uh-oh, you got my attention.
Exactly. My mouth's watering thinking about it.
Yeah.
You would go in and they do biscuits and gravy and then eggs on top of it. And then they would smother it with green chili and cheese and hot sauce. And so you ended up with this huge plate. Oh, wow. It's called the Ed.
I like that.
The Gunsmoke Cafe.
I like him. I like
and
it
then,
already.
they got rid of the restaurant. I don't know if it's still there, but that was a hard day. When you were a river guide, that provided a lot of calories you needed.
Okay, what is the thing that you can't have for breakfast? What's
Eggs.
your eggs?
I can't deal with the texture of it.
Of eggs?
Yep, no eggs.
Don't you have chickens?
We do.
That's weird.
And all of our eggs are sold. It's funny. We don't eat them as a family.
No.
We have dozens of eggs a
Seriously?
day.
Man.
We're almost near, there's like a cap that you have to actually then register your little farm with.
Oh my
With the
gosh.
state. And we might be a little close to it.
That's crazy. For me, grapefruit.
Yeah,
Hate
we don't
grapefruit.
eat it.
Grapefruit's awful. Grapefruit's,
Really?
Oh, it's a liar. It's a liar fruit. It's awful.
It's great.
No, it's not. Here's the thing is it even took, there's a comedian that talked about it, how much of a liar it is because it has to take the name of a good, wholesome, wonderful fruit, the grape. And then it has to appropriate that and then come to us and make us believe that it is a wonderful, delicious morning treat. And it doesn't. It is the only fruit that ruins everything else in the fruit bowl. You put grapefruit in the mixed fruit bowl, everything tastes like grapefruit. It's crap. It's
Well,
awful.
next
Hate the
Friday,
grapefruit.
you can join Bill, I, and Brandon Tatum
Yeah, but no
all the way
grapefruit.
down at the Castle Rock Black Eyed Pea for a fun morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., April 19th. Details at 710
Come say hi.
KNUS. It's been a great show. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great day.